David, like the shirt.
Thank you.
I think it's 7 o'clock and we are recording, so
Yep.
let me call this meeting to order. This is the Framingham Conservation Commission public meeting for Wednesday, August 7th, 7 p.m. Present with us are Commissioners Jean, Kevin, Steve Weisman, Stephen DiNicola, David Spopo, and Sam Body. With that said, I'll open it up to the public to seek any input, questions, comments on non-agenda items that anyone may have. Oh, I don't see anyone because the one that always used to be is yet right here. So, okay, we'll go to the next item, which is minutes. I think we had only one, which is June 5th. I read through the minutes and I did not see anything.
Okay, anyone else?
No, I didn't see anything either.
Yeah, same here.
The list of minutes showed that the 15th of May was not reviewed yet. Is that an error?
Were you looking at them in Laserfish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a mistake, Steve, but I
Okay.
can double check. Sometimes we forget to update Laserfish and they just go to the website, but I'll double check for you.
Okay.
This is David Anderson's joining us. So if we do not have any changes, entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the minutes of June 5th without changes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Jean?
Yes.
Kevin? Yes, okay. Steve Weisman?
Yes.
Stephen DiNicola?
Abstain.
Okay, David S?
I think I have to abstain because I was absent.
Yep, you were absent. Yep. David A?
Yes.
Sam, yes. Okay. Got a few minutes. Becca, I did request before to put in an agenda item or a discussion item or an administrative item for the vice chair and the CPC.
Yep.
Do you think we can do it as an administrative matter now, or do you want to wait till the end?
If you want to do it now, we're a little ahead of schedule. That might save some of the people waiting for their times.
All right, let's do it with the long-awaited appointment for one of the commissioners as the vice chair. By the way, we do have a full commission right now with Stephen DiNicola. So, Becca, I also noticed one thing is we need to update our vacant commissioner.
Oh, on the website. Yes, good
yes.
call. I
Yep.
will
Yep.
I'll make that note.
Yep. So
We'll get that changed.
Yep, this is huge. I mean, we are a full commission, full staff, and we're chugging along pretty well. So, with that said, I do not want to nominate anyone, but I think I'll let the commission kind of throw names out there, and we'll take a vote.
Well, let's make sure everybody understands that they wouldn't be vice chair forever. It's for 1 year, correct?
Yes, 1 year term.
And, I feel that our most knowledgeable commissioner is Steve Weisman. And I myself already have, one little anchor to drag along in my life this year, but I would be willing to do it in a future year. But I think it's the type of thing we have to think about rotating and getting involved, and understanding what Sam has to do too, and as well as filling in for him when you need to.
Yep, sounds good, yes, yep. So we do have a nomination.
And I'm happy to do it,
Okay.
David.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else throwing any other names, or if not,
I'll second that.
okay. So if I think Dave A is making that motion,
I make a motion that Steve Weisman be the vice chair.
okay, we have
I
a
would like to
motion.
second that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? I hear none, so we'll take a roll call vote just to solidify this. Gene,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Stephen D. Nicola,
Yes,
David S.,
Yes.
David A.,
Yes.
Steve Weisman.
Sure.
He's coordinated.
No,
That was
take-
easy.
no,
we
no,
gotta
that's not a
put a little
legal
crown
answer.
on him now.
That-
He's
that is not-
coordinated. We
That
gotta
is
put a
not
crown
a
on him.
legal answer. It's a yes or a no.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And see,
Damn
now
yes.
you can't be vice chair and CPC, so you did two things at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, congratulations, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
I look forward to it.
Now I can go to Asheville.
well played, Sam.
Well played. That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Okay. We do have a couple more minutes. I think we can get one more in, the long-awaited representation on the CPC from the commission. And I'd again open it up to the commission.
I'd recommend Stephen D. Nicola for that.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
I've already spoken, and Mr. Mahoney has contacted me, and I'm ready to attend on Monday. I went to the last meeting. I've been going, so yes, I'm willing. I have the time, and I'd like to liaison between that group and this group, and keep you guys fully informed. I want as much input, and I want you guys to make the decision. I don't want to, so I'd be happy to do it.
Okay.
Right. I'd like to second that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have a motion.
Can I motion my own?
No, I'll do it.
No, I think David has.
I
David
make a
has can
motion.
formalize it.
Yeah, I make a motion for Stephen D. Nicola to be the representative for CPC.
So now let me ask a question. I mean, even before the motion, I think, do we need to specify the term, or does it
As
go?
long as he can do it, why not?
No, it goes through, it goes as long, from the CPC's perspective, it goes as long as his term on the commission.
So
Okay, all right. So we don't have to take, like, we can nominate, and then his term dictates the term. Okay.
Which
All
is
right.
not to say if he decides he doesn't want to do it after a while, we can't make another appointment to replace him.
Right.
So we do have a motion for Stephen D. Nicola for CPC representation from the commission. Looking for a second.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion, which we just did? We'll take a roll call vote. Gene,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Steve Weisman,
Yes.
David S.,
Yes.
David A.,
Yes.
Stephen D. Nicola.
There
Yes.
you are.
Sam, yes. Thank you very
That
much.
went
Stephen.
fast. Great.
Yep.
Yeah,
been
that's great.
both those things have been a long time coming. It's good to see a full commission and fully staffed. It's been a couple years, actually,
Yes.
since we've had full staff and full commission. It's an
Yep.
exciting time. So,
Yes, absolutely. And this commission has been pretty energetic. They're motivated. They're energized. They want to get stuff done, and it's a beautiful thing. So, all right. With that said, we'll go to the next item on the agenda. It's a request for certificate of compliance, DP file number 1581442, 59 Fountain Street. Is anybody here for that? Don't think so. Becca did. Oh, there's John Cusich. Yep.
Hi, yes, Caroline Clark from Bowler.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Would you please introduce yourself for the record and give us a brief description of what you're asking us for and what you've submitted.
Yep, no, absolutely. For the record, John Cusick with Bowler Engineering. We are asking for a certificate of compliance for the project that's been constructed for many years now at 59 Fountain Street. Like many times, I think the applicant has really forgotten their duties to close it out. It's just something sometimes it's not thought of. So they had frankly lost track of that. So we went through and wanted to make sure that we closed out that process and made sure that everything was done according to the plan. Okay. And approvals. So we've gone through. We've taken a look at the site. We were obviously the designers of record at the time, so we're familiar with it. We've had a couple site walks ourselves. Caroline Clark from my office was out on the site for a quick site walk with your agent as well. And in our opinion, everything is done per plan and obviously fully stabilized. It's been up for a little while now. So happy to answer any questions you might have, but that's the gist of it.
Okay, so did you submit a letter certifying that it was completed? Okay. Any deviations?
Yeah. No, I think I don't believe there were any deviations. I don't have the letter in front of me, but I think everything.
It's fine if as long as you note it on your letter. So,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Becca, anything from the sidewalk or?
Nope. So I met Caroline out there earlier this week, and yeah, everything looks good. The plants have grown in, everything's stabilized. It looks like it's been that way probably for a couple of years now.
Okay. All right. So, commission, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Tim, I have a question.
Yes, Kevin.
I wasn't involved in this project, so, but I know it's a redevelopment and we have another project in front of us tonight, which is separate from this. What were there stormwater improvements included in the project? Water quality inlets, underground?
Yeah, all of the above. It was a site just going from the Wayback Machine that was it was pretty rough shape. I think there's a storage yard. They had everything just kind of flowing right into the really right into the resource area before that. So we essentially cleaned everything up and made sure we had full stormwater management, in which there's both treatment and there's an infiltration basin on site prior to discharge. So the whole project did incorporate not only recharge, reduction in peak rates as you need to do, and also attenuation.
So the question I ask about all these is, did the stormwater management require inspection and cleanouts? And do you have records of those?
So there are cleanouts. There was inspected during construction. Relative to, excuse me.
Have they been clean? Have they been inspected quarterly? I don't know what was required. I don't know what the stormwater system is, but were they inspected as per required under the stormwater handbook and cleaned out accordingly? Once
it was opened, I can't speak to the operations of how often they've done that. I really don't. I don't know. We weren't involved with that.
I wouldn't want to sign off on a certificate of compliance until I was assured that you guys had met your inspection and clean out as required. Because when these stormwater improvements are put in, the idea is that they're actually inspected and cleaned out so that they continue to function as designed. And I, in my career, have rarely seen that complied with. And I just think it's something that you're making a commitment when you permit it, that it should be followed up with. And I'm, you know, I'd like to see those records. I'd like to at least see that it's been cleaned out. I suspect it. Well, I won't say what I suspect. Let's just say that I think there is a requirement, or if there was a requirement.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was an O&M, definitely a plan that was submitted, like any other project that needs to comply with the stormwater regs. And I'm pretty sure there's a frequency and a form that's attached that was going to be done at certain frequencies. So I think it's very valid to ask for that. And I think that should be our standard procedure, because we do ask them for the O&M, which they do submit as required, but I don't think we do follow up on checking that. I think it's a good point. And I think, John, I think it should be something that could be easily provided. I don't think there's any big rush as far as, like, trying to get this COC, and you having to just double check that for us and submit it and come back would be the ideal situation, unless you tell us that no, we need it. We need the COC for a reason.
No, I think it's just really due course, trying to close things out to really follow the process is why we're doing it. So as I mentioned, I don't have I don't have any of those records or whatnot, but I can go back to the owners. I think it's sold from the original owners, and someone purchased it just to make sure that they're providing the any records and in whatever they have, just make sure that they're cleaned out and provide that to you.
Sure.
Just for my education, because I honestly don't recall that. Does the commission like to see the records continually followed up to them? I know the applicants typically want to hold on to those records. Does the commission want that paperwork on an ongoing basis?
To be honest, we need to double check the special conditions or the conditions. If they do require, or if they do state annual inspections, and whether it's submission or retaining it for, like, when the commission asks for it. I to be honest, again, you don't have a copy, I don't have a copy of the conditions, so check it. But definitely, I think you may, when you did the O&M submission, you should have, like, specified, we'll do 4 inspections for the first year and clean out and blah blah blah. So whatever is spelled out, and if it does say annual reports need to be maintained, like, inspection and cleaning, then that still needs to be complied with in perpetuity. So but again, at least at the initial year, I think our special conditions usually are pretty specific about it. So
so at the very least, I can coordinate with ownership, make sure that everything is is currently cleaned out, and provide that information to you. Again, I do know what I can communicate is we have visited the site. It is built per plan. It is stabilized, and it is functioning properly. So that much I can assure the commission at. That said, I can provide some record of cleaning, because that isn't something that I'm involved with, but I can provide that to you as requested.
Yeah, again, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're not asking for the certificate of compliance as the applicant, so we're just following up with them. We typically don't do, and thanks to Kevin for bringing that up. So I think we might want to make that our standard requirement. So, all right, Becca.
Yeah, I just skimmed through the digital file for you quick, John. I don't see that anything was ever submitted to us, but one of the conditions in perpetuity in the OOC is to abide by the operation and maintenance plan. So If you can hunt those down and just send them over, we can include them as background info for the next time you guys are here.
You got it.
Yeah, Steve Weisman.
Yeah, and I think in the context of the project that is going to come up, I think this is a good precedent, and hopefully all the projects can be on the same schedule.
Kevin.
Yeah, and I just want to, it's something that I've seen over my career that, you know, DEP allows for these underground systems, but they require inspections to be successful and to treat the way they're permitted. So, and my experience is that they're rarely inspected because maintenance is a whole different thing. It's you've built your job, it's a whole different contractor, and then so I think that we should be making sure that that's happening.
Yep, got it, Kevin. Yep, good point. Thank you. Stephen D. Nicole.
Thanks, Sam. Same with Becca. I'm just skimming through and I'm looking at the recorded order of conditions, and on page 10, it goes through it, and it's G number 2, make the maintenance log available to the Mass DEP and the Conservation Commission. And then it goes on about stormwater management and sediments, and so it's in there. I mean, it's good that we're asking, I think, and it's something we probably should, you know, pay attention to.
Yep, good point. Yep.
Yeah, like I said, your request is a good request, because systems are only good if they're ultimately maintained. So I applaud you for having following up on that with applicants and making sure they're gonna do that. So I will definitely dig up what the O&M was and get that to you. And not sure what they have for records, but I'll certainly ensure that it's cleaned and that information is provided to you, and that way you'll have that.
Yep, appreciate that. Thank you. Gene.
Yeah, I know this has come up in the past, so does it make sense to have a checklist? So for any applicant who files for a COC, you know, get some checklist of what we might be asking for?
Yeah, we typically do have the 3 things that the staff check for, but I think this is something that I think moving forward is important, and I think we need to add it to the checklist. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. All right, John. We'll see you, like, you know, after you get the submission, and then I think our next hearing is on the 21st.
Yes, Sam, the 21st.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll follow up with Rebecca to make sure we can provide that information. I don't think there's any advertising required, so we'll coordinate with that and just get everything to you as soon as possible.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you all.
All right. Have a good night. All right. The next item on the agenda is again a request for COC, DEP file number 158676, 5 Donovan Drive. Anyone from the attendees is here for 5 Donovan Drive? Yep. Maktoum Ahmed.
Hi, can you hear me? I am Maktoum Ahmed. I'm representing 5 Donovan Drive.
Yes, yep. I think you did your introduction. So yeah, just go over your request in the submissions that you've done for us.
Yes, you want me to just summarize the application?
Yeah.
Yes, sure. So I'm the owner of the 5 Donovan Drive. The third owner happened to be. So years before, of course, long before my time, when Donovan was being constructed, at the time, I think the idea was to do storm drainage and vegetation. But at the time, the vegetation wasn't stabilized. I'm talking 1996, I think.
Oh.
And since then, you know, the vegetation has been stabilized. The lawn is perfect. So now, when I was about to sell the property, in fact, the closing is tomorrow, the sellers found out that, you know, there is long-standing old permit from the construction days that is still pending.
Okay.
So I applied, and I think Rebecca and Dominic visited the site, inspected, and then that's how I came to this meeting and looking for a seat.
Okay, thank you. Becca, anything else? Everything looked all right?
Yeah, everything looked good, and like he kind of explained, so there was a partial COC issued in, I think, 1997, and the outstanding conditions were stabilization and final grading, which, like he said, everything is stabilized at this point.
Okay, all right. Commission? David A.
Well, seeing that it's been inspected and it's in compliance, I'm ready to make a motion.
Yep, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for DEP 158676 5 Donovan Drive.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. David A.
Yes.
Gene.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Steve Weisman.
Yes.
Stephen D. Nicola.
Yes.
David S.
Yes.
Sam, yes. Okay. Think you're all set.
Thank you very much to the committee.
All right. Have a good night.
Yep.
All right. The last request for certificate of compliance, DEP file number 158-1540, 115 Prospect Street. Anybody here for that, Breeze? Yep. Okay. Introduce, please.
Good evening.
Introduce
I'm
yourself
Chris
for the record.
Eggers.
Yep.
And I'm the attorney representing the property owners at 115 Prospect Street.
Okay.
And we're here for the certificate of compliance as well for a basketball court that extended partially into the buffer zone of the resource area. It's been stable and construction's been complete for nearly 3 years. The delay in us filing for the COC came about because we couldn't get N-Grid to install a gas line for a heating system for the new pool. So we waited a couple of years for that, and we came up against the wall of the extension and decided that instead of installing the gas line, they'll just use the they were at one point temporary, but propane tanks to fuel the heating system for the pool and all the mechanicals within the little shed that was built. Well, I'll stop there and see if anybody has any questions. We submitted a letter from DGT. They were the engineers with the as-built plan. They also wrote the letter required listing the deviations, and the deviations were one, the propane tank, and then there was I believe a 57-foot square piece of patio that did extend beyond the 125 line. And I think that was about it.
Okay. All right.
So,
Gene?
as I said,
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, Chris, could you please to maybe just elaborate a little bit on why National Grid wouldn't extend the line? I mean, it sounds like that was the intent, and was it just the service connection, or was it the main coming down the street, or a combination of both?
No, there was a head a couple of feet off of the curb on that piece of property that we were told they wouldn't cut into it. First, the excuse was COVID, and then the excuse became it's not a priority because it's not a residence or an emergency. It's a pool heater, which I mean I guess we can understand, but after about 2.5 years, the owners got tired of waiting and decided
okay. the
better path was to use the propane, and come to find out propane's now cheaper than gas. So that was a good decision.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
You're very welcome.
All right. Becca, anything else?
Nope. So we did approve the minor plan change for the propane tanks. Chris came into the office, gave us a plan. We made that change for them, and then Dom went out there and did the final inspection and said everything looked great.
Okay. All right. All right. Commission, if you don't have any questions, I entertain a motion.
I entertain a motion that we do a certificate of compliance for DEP 158-1540 115 Prospect Street.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Gene seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Gene,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Steve Weisman,
Yes.
Kevin DiNicola,
Yes.
David S,
Yes.
David A,
Yes.
Sam, yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Chris.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, and y'all have a great night.
Yep, you too. Thank you.
Two.
All right. The next item on the agenda is 5 minutes away. Becca, do you have anything that we need to?
I got nothing.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right, member, let's do member prerogatives and see if any of the members have anything.
I last week I talked a little bit about the trees.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let everybody know that I found some more information online about the old growth forest in Massachusetts, and apparently there's a couple other areas that were discovered where they didn't really realize it existed. And I would just encourage everybody to take a look at that because it's very interesting.
You have a
Could you
link?
send it to us?
I will, I will. I think I sent one out to David there, David S, because we just happened to be talking about it up when we met off site for one of the site visits. But I will send it out. I'll send them out. Very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I know there's on Wachusett and Greylock, there's old growth, but maybe in Blue Hills.
They have some aerial photography of it, and it's really interesting to actually see it on the. It's on it, yeah, like you say, Mount Greylock. They couldn't get to certain areas, but I guess they discovered a couple other areas where some of that old tree growth is still growing. A couple of the old trees, and they know how to age them and know they're just because a tree isn't huge and fat doesn't mean it's not that old. There are some trees that are quite old, but they're not that. They don't look that
Right.
that old.
Steve.
The question of street trees and their significance keeps coming up again. And I wondered if we could establish a plan for finalizing that letter that David had started and getting it out and thinking about what we wanted to do for us and who it should go to.
So where does it stand right now? I mean, I know we saw, I think it went out, and then I think, Steve, you commented on it, right?
Yep, so Steve made a couple comments, Sam. We said us as staff would go back and kind of revise it, which we unfortunately haven't had a chance to do yet. But I think the big struggle for us is just kind of trying to have a more clear direction of who this letter is intended for. And, there was talks for a while about maybe having a joint letter with the sustainability committee or another committee or board that has like similar interest. But yeah, we're just not sure which direction to really take it in, whether it was, I know David's letter really focused on heat islands, which as we discussed isn't fully in our purview here. So I guess knowing the intent of the letter, where it's going, and would be helpful, giving us a little better direction.
So, do you think we should have it, or is it a statement from the commission? Is it a stand? Because where would we actually go with it? I mean, do we go? I mean, we can definitely reach out to the sustainability committee, but then do we go beyond that? Do we go to DPW?
Well, I think we want the sustainability committee to take it beyond.
Okay.
We have jurisdiction in a certain area, but they cover everything.
I think that seems to be appropriate committee. Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, I think we should send it to them primarily, and then we should CC some other parties that might have relevant decision-making authority, like the DPW director, maybe the mayor, so the mayor knows we're doing it, and
We can copy the mayor too. Yeah.
maybe the city council.
What about the planning council or the planning department?
Or the planning department. I mean,
Okay.
we need to let people know we're doing it.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it makes sense. I mean, all of those departments and the council and the mayor, I think it's worth getting it out there.
This is, it's a
Can I-
policy
can I just-
question.
Yeah, can I just ask, I had put a couple of links to some, like the Arbor Day Foundation and whatnot, and I wasn't sure that they were gonna be included in the last draft I saw. Am I missing something, or is that intentional, or I thought part of it was to, like, education, to show people where to get guidance and information on tree planting and so forth.
Yeah, so I mean, what maybe the best thing to do is we could recirculate the letter to the commission if everybody wants to take another look at it. I think Steve, David, and Jean, you guys were really the only ones that provided any feedback. And like I said, everybody kind of took it in a different direction, and we were kind of thinking like a one pager might be the most impactful. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why I put that in there, and I brought it up for some good points. A lot of times the public gets conflicting information. For example, some folks encourage bushing and planting and trees around homes. And when the season gets dry, it goes dead or it goes dormant, and now it becomes a fire risk. So people are saying to cut and trim this stuff, get it away from your house. So that's why I wanted to put some links into organizations so people could look at all the information, not just one, look at all the information and make the best decisions. And we probably have more than one link at the bottom. So, we point people in the right direction, and some will want to research it, and they can research it quickly.
Yeah, I think Becca, that's a good idea to kind of research now that we know we just talked about like where
Mhm.
like our focus is with the departments and the city council and stuff like that. So I think it may be worth revisiting it again.
Okay,
So
so we can recirculate it, and then if everybody wants to give comments, and then we can put it on the agenda to discuss.
okay, Steve.
Yeah, it does seem like there ought to be some kind of an ask in the letter.
Mhm.
And I don't think the last draft that I saw really didn't have a strong ask. I don't know whether a task force could be appropriate. Becca told me that there are three certified arborists across different departments. We talked about the sustainability committee. So at some point, I'm hoping this leads to some kind of policy, because currently there is no policy. It's all about being squeaky.
Yeah. Yep. Got it. Kevin.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think this type of policy does need the whole town, like the departments, to be looking at this, not just DPW, they build projects, but the planning department oversees projects. And we have a pretty big EJ community that gets affected by, we all do get affected by tree planting. And there's an old school look. When I first started DPW, Mass DPW, it was you cut the trees because they undermine the pavement and they undermine your sidewalks. Well, there's a lot more ways to deal with that now. You can plant trees and put root barriers in and have that in an urban area. And so I just think it's more than just it's a town-wide, citywide policy.
So should we have a draft of it go to these departments before we finalize it?
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when a larger project goes before the planning board, goes through site plan review, and they typically require a landscaping plan with tree planting. But interestingly enough, the city projects aren't governed by those same requirements. So there's sort of
that might be where the gap is.
Yeah, there's sort of a contradiction in development protocols between what the public is required to do and what the city does. So that
That's
might
been
be a
going,
point.
that's been going on for decades, Steve.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this
Yeah.
is all about change, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this, yeah, that's where, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Becca, the plan is to research the letter or the policy again, and we'll take it from there. And I think we can have an agenda item for discussion.
Okay, so I'll recirculate the letter tomorrow and then we'll plan to put it on the August 21st agenda to discuss. And then to Jean's point, maybe at that point I'll be ready to send to any other board, committee, commission for their input.
All right, okay, sounds like a plan. All right, okay, good discussion. Let's go to the next item on the agenda. It's a discussion item, enforcement order, 35 Hiram Road. Yep, I think we see one hand, Becca. I think it's David.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you can please introduce yourself for the
Sure, my
record.
name is David Sadowski. I'm the principal of DJ and Associates. We're a company out of Clinton, Massachusetts. We have land surveyors and civil engineers.
Okay,
I was contacted by there's a company called Mega Realty out of Framingham, and the broker that works there, Elias Montero, had got a hold of me and said Jessica Furtado had bought some property at 35 Hiram Road. She purchased it on July 22nd, 2024, and there was an enforcement order against this property. There was a bunch of work that had occurred in the 30-foot no touch, the 50-foot no structure, 125-foot buffer, so on, so on, so on. And also that, you know, there's a riverfront to deal with also here. So there's an inner riparian, outer riparian zone. We have land subject to flooding, I'm sure. We have land underwater. We have a lot of different things. We have bank restoration. I saw pictures of a wall that was along either the brook or stream or somewhere that was directing water. So bank was removed in that area where the wall was put in.
Yep.
I saw how they had approached in the beginning to cut 2 dead trees, and they were allowed to if they left 10 feet of the tree up and didn't take the base of it out. And I understand that they did do that, and they did a lot of other things too. They put a tree house in and a host of other things. So I'm calling in tonight to let you know that I have been contacted. I've been hired to come down to put together some type of a restoration plan to bring in before the commission. And see which ways we could go to possibly, you know, to somehow fix this without any further damage to the ecosystem that's out there, allow the breeding in the bank to continue, and allow the travel, you know, wildlife and everything else to travel the way that it usually does. I know there's 1057, 1058, 1059, there's performance standards and other things involved with this.
Yep. So do you have a copy of the enforcement order and the order that dictates the date certains that we have specified for actions to?
I do. Rebecca forwarded that to the realtor. He forwarded it to me. Obviously, I think some of those dates are by the people that were there.
So
the Evans, they sold it off, and
Right.
somehow Jessica has it.
Yeah, but then we need to, again, this enforcement order was for the address to the previous owners. We need to amend it for the new owners. Becca, do we have the owner's new information?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we need to amend that. The second and third thing that we need to amend is their intent to comply with this order. We had it from the previous one, I guess, but we do need to, and that was dated for May 14, 2024. I think we need to amend that, and then also to have the second item on the order was documentation which assesses and calculates the total impact of unauthorized work on the above referenced resource areas and buffer zones subject to review and approval by the Conservation Commission no later than, which was passed June 26, 2024. So we need to amend that too. So with that said, I'll go back to you, David. What is your plan of action, and when do you think we can see something, and we need to update or amend this enforcement order with the date? with the new date.
If I could, I'm not sure who the chairman is, so I'll just say,
Same.
through the chair,
Yep. Go ahead.
Elias Montero, I believe, is also online somewhere. I can't see people that are waiting online or not waiting. He's the contact with the Furtados. But my plan is next week, somewhere in the middle of the week. We've been rained out this whole week. We're going to lose this weekend. I've had a lot of jobs. I'm backed up about 3 weeks field work. But I plan on being down there next week to walk the site, to see where I can find monumentation on that cul-de-sac, and see how I can establish control in the backyard. Find out where their property line is, and also find out how we're going to survey the extents of the disturbed area. Anything that looks like it's been cut down, anything that looks like it's been some type of a mix put down, some grass put down, where the structures are located, all of that stuff. It's probably going to take me 2 or 3 days in the field. I imagine I'm at least a month away before I could bring a plan before the commission to show what the extents of the damage are on the lot,
Okay.
to be honest.
Yep. No, I mean, again, this is good. This is what the commission needed to hear. Before going to the commission, I think it was Elias. Can you unmute yourself, introduce, and kind of, I mean, the owners are not here, so we need some kind of a buy-in. So
Hi, yeah, this is Elias Montero. I'm the realtor, and also I'll be working with Dave just because of language barrier with the owners. I'm sorry, I'm actually on vacation this week. I just got down here, so
okay, sorry.
yeah.
Anyway,
So it's been a crazy week, but so we've worked with Dave before in the past with success to have you know, different situations with conservation approved and done correctly. So we hope to you know, get this resolved as soon as possible for you guys.
yep. So the reason we've been waiting, and there's the violations have been to put it mildly horrendous. So anyway, the sooner the better before the winter, but there is some work that needs to be done, and I think the commission, you'll hear it from the commission, rest of the commission, what we are kind of even before the property exchange ownerships, what we were focusing on is, does the new owner fully understand the extent and the nature of the work that needs to be done, and so on and so forth. So that's the reason why I kind of began with asking David about, have we gone through and read through and kind of have like, you know, an idea of what needs to be done here. So that's why I needed to kind of, like, you know, what the commission would appreciate is kind of the confidence, the level of confidence that yes, we do and we intend to do it, and then we can amend the enforcement order again based on what the commission decides, and without getting into, again, the dates have passed, again, it changed ownership, but that doesn't mean that things don't get done. So anyway, that's in a nutshell. So I'll let you, Elias, speak to the commission on that.
Yeah, so we the owners are aware of the order, the enforcement. That's why, you know, we contacted David to because he's like the first person to have to go out there and take a look and actually do any of the surveying, all that documentation for the commission. And then once that is done, come back with a plan with, you know, some dates and goals of when we have everything that needs to be done, you know, and hopefully the commission will, I know you guys have been patient with the previous owner, but if you can be patient with us so we can actually get this work done and not waste your time.
Yep. Okay. All right. With that said, I'll go to the commission. once again, we have a couple of dates to amend. One is we do need the intent to comply. Becca, is that going to be in what form that is going to be? Is it an email? Is it
Yeah, so I think the enforcement order states that it's written notification just of their intent to comply with the order. So I think if they sent an email to us, that would probably be sufficient written documentation.
okay? Okay, and the second date is when they
Yeah, so the second date, like you said, is the property owner shall provide documentation which assesses and calculates the total impact of unauthorized work, subject to review and approval by the commission. So basically kind of giving a scope of work of what needs to be done.
Yep, okay. Yep. Steve?
Yeah, my question was more a process question, just, and some of it you've covered already, but I wondered whether this is something that needs to be voted out again by
Meaning,
us? Do we have to vote to reissue,
I mean, amend.
or have we done that already?
No, what we're doing is the enforcement order is still in effect. It's just that we're amending it to reflect the new owner and then the new dates to comply. So,
Okay, and that can be done administratively?
nope, we are taking a vote on it.
Okay.
Yes, we will in a second once we decide on those dates. So, Kevin?
You're on mute, Kevin.
I don't know. We can't hear you, that's all.
I shouldn't be muted.
Okay.
So you can't hear me?
Now we can.
Now we can.
Okay. A month from now is the 4th, which is
Oh, can
are we meeting on the 4th?
okay. Which one, Kevin?
So we would meet on the 4th, so they would need to deliver the information at least a week before that. What would our deadline be for?
Yeah, so we have a meeting September 4th, and the deadline for that would be Wednesday, August 21st.
Is that too early or?
Oh, so
just trying to figure out
which date is that? The first or the second?
That's the first Wednesday of September.
No.
but-
What item are you? There are two dates, Kevin. So the first one is the acknowledgement. The second one is the actual survey, the coming up with the plan.
I was talking about the survey, but the acknowledgement hopefully could happen a lot faster than that.
Yes. So I would say before the next meeting would be probably it's not needed, but definitely before the next meeting.
So that's the 21st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just throwing it out there. Again, it's up to you, up to the commission. But the second date is what I think David has already kind of gone over, and he's been realistic. And I think some of us do kind of understand where he's coming from. So he kind of is projecting. David, again, can you remind the commission? You're thinking about 4 weeks. David?
You're muted.
I don't know how I got muted, but anyways, through the chair, what is the date of the September meeting, the first one? That's the date I'll be shooting for the plan to be done to be able to bring in. I'd like to at least get it to the commission 3 or 4 days before the meeting, so everyone will get a chance to look at it, and then we can talk about it, I guess, the night of that
So
meeting.
the first meeting is September 4th, and the second meeting is September 18th. And we need the info. I guess if you, Becca, if we think that this is like a supplemental material and not new, we
Yeah,
could have
that's
them.
up to the,
Yeah, August
Yeah.
28th is the deadline for the September 4th meeting.
Let me ask a different
first.
question. What is the date of Labor Day this year?
It's the second.
September 2nd.
Or second, yeah. Second. Second.
I think I could have a plan to you by August 28th, and then we'll be able to discuss it on the 4th.
Okay,
Okay, that's
I
good.
mean, that's,
Let's take it.
yep,
I mean, that's the way I definitely have to go because on the 18th, I'm actually going to be scuba diving off of Sri Lanka. So I think
All right.
it's going to be better
Are
that we
you,
go on
you
the
willing
4th.
to give a tour? Head
I've
up?
never been with this group before. We're going to live on a boat for a week and we're just going to dive 4 times a day. And
okay. All right,
luck.
so we have the 2 dates and, again, we do need the owner's information. Becca, do we have that, formally from?
I believe the realtor sent it, but it should be on the registry of deeds too. But either way, we can get it. No big deal.
Okay, all right.
it's definitely on the registry website. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the first date for the intent to comply for August 21st, and then the second date is to come up with the plan for submission to the commission on August 28th.
Do it.
If I could, one more conversation. I
Yeah.
definitely will have the area, the calculations, the areas that were impacted, the area on the site, everything else. I don't know if I'll have a whole list of ways to improve and fix these, but at least I'll have all the stuff listed that happened there, show all of it, and be able to have a plan to present. And then we can talk about, you want 9-inch straw wattle, do you want silt fence with it? All those different things that the commission may or may not want, to see how we can go about attacking and putting the site back to the way it was. I don't think I'll have all that on the plan by the 28th, but I will have all the disturbed area, all the impact area, buffers will be
Later.
shown.
That's
If there's old flags out there, those will be located. I don't know if we need to reflag it, what we need to do, but I'll be on site next week.
all right.
Perhaps I can meet with Rebecca, even after I get done with it, stop over the town hall.
Yep, so let's, I think the commission is going to ask, but let me ask, David. Do you have, any means of, what do you call the pre-disturbed, site conditions plan? So you're going to be out there, you're going to be documenting the existing,
I'm gonna give you an existing conditions plan of everything that's on that site, everything it looks like to me that was disturbed, any type of new structures that were built, a tree house, a deck area, a patio, any of that stuff will be shown on the plan in its proximity to the resource area.
right, but the thing is for you to quantify the impacts.
It's the baseline.
You need to know the pre-disturbance conditions, so that's what I think the commission is going to look for too, so.
Pre and post, that was what we were looking for last time, so I thought there wasn't there some records, Rebecca, that we knew what the previous conditions were like? Didn't we already have that in the file somewhere?
We just had
Pictures.
previous photos from a real estate listing that just showed, undisturbed land, but not necessarily like the calculations that Sam's kind of referring to.
And can we
Was
get that
there any
information?
plan presented that showed like the existing house on there and where the tree was located or anything like that, or the brook was located? Or?
I do not know if we do have like an electronic CAD file or something, but I think there was a submission by the previous homeowner to do a bunch of work as an RDA that came in before us. So that we could provide it, David, but again, please keep it in mind that we.
I know you need pre and post.
Yeah.
I'll stop in and see Becca, see what's in the file, see what I can copy, and I'll go from there.
Okay. Yep. Sounds. I mean, I think I like your attitude, and the commission appreciates it. I think we'll go with that, and then we'll amend dates and come up with a plan and move forward.
Yeah.
This is definitely positive. So, yeah.
Just to let the commission know, I started in '81 with Perini at Seabrook, so I've been doing this for a little bit of a while. So I think that maybe that was a great place to start with tolerance too. So I think that maybe I should be able to provide information satisfactory.
All right. Okay. With that said, anything else from the commission?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Steve. Yeah.
I just wanted to reiterate that we had separated the assessment phase from the planning phase. So just to be clear with David, what our expectations are, we wanted to see the summary and analysis of what had been done, and then talk about how it's going to be remediated.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, all right. I'd entertain a motion to amend the enforcement order as we discussed.
With the 2 days. I'll second that motion.
No, I can't make a motion, so I need a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Make a motion to amend the enforcement order to reflect the current property owner at 35 Hiram Road, understanding that the enforcement order carries over with the deed. And to have the dates of information to be submitted, we'd like to see a letter of cooperation.
Intent to comply.
Intent to comply from the property owner by
August 21st.
the 21st.
Yep.
August 21st, and plans submitted by the 28th, which show the existing conditions and if
Pre and
possible,
post.
pre and post. Excellent. Yeah, pre and post conditions.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, I don't know who got it, but we'll.
Dave Anderson.
Okay, all right. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Steve Weisman,
Yes.
Stephen DiNicola,
Yes.
David S.,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Gene,
Yes.
David A.,
Yes.
Sam, yes. All right, thank you very much, David and Elias, and we'll look forward to our discussion on September 4th. Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. Have a good night. All right, next item on the agenda is a discussion enforcement order 32 Nixon Road. I think it's Attorney Nyland and Scott. All right, please introduce yourself for the record and get us up to speed with the summary of the submission that was done.
So, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Chip Nyland, representing Iron Horse Dressage and Iron Horse Equestrian. I have Scott Goddard with me and Rob Gemma, if you can promote those as them as panelists as well, Rebecca. I think I'm going to flip it from what I did when I was in front of you last meeting. I spent probably 15 minutes walking through the history. I think the board is well aware of the history at this stage, so I don't think I need to do that again. I will say that most important thing I can say is that, you know, we're coming here with this restoration of what I call removal, restoration, replication, and reconfiguration plan. And this is just not Iron Horse. As I think I explained to you, SVT, which holds the conservation restriction on the property, hired their own wetland scientists who spent a lot of time developing the protocol and working that with us over time. So the protocol in terms of the restoration and the removal was involved at SVT. And secondly, even since the last meeting, DEP has been more than heavily involved in reviewing the plans. So at this stage, while this is our plan, I will say that it's been through, you know, multiple reviews, and I think at this stage, I think what I'd like to do is just turn it over to Scott Goddard, and he can walk you through, you know, the changes, the tweaks that have been made. I appreciate that all of them. I think all of the members were able to visit the site. I think that is the best thing that could happen. So I think you can understand exactly what we're trying to accomplish. After Scott finishes, I would just then like to summarize why we think going through this, resolving this as an enforcement order as opposed to filing a notice of intent will allow us to do the work this fall so that we won't have to go until next spring. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott to explain what the restoration plan involves.
Okay, thanks, Chip. Scott Goddard Consulting. We met, I think, each and every one of you at the site over the course of 2 walks last week, which I think was very productive to put eyes on the site. I'm going to walk through a modified version of the presentation that I did last time. Per the request of several members of the commission, I'm going to keep it very simplified, high level, with, I think, some helpful graphics. And I have more detailed graphics available if we want to get into the details. So this is a view standing down close toward the paddock area. This is a refresher showing outlines in green where there has been historical agricultural activities documented on the aerial photography. The arena outdoors is this brown rectangular shape as it sits there today. Okay, so if you look at the older historical aerials, you'll see the Christmas tree activities, which is evidence here, that would carry through. So we have documented satisfactorily to DEP, SVT, and hopefully to this commission that this is land that was historically in agricultural use. This is a photograph that I think is quite helpful. It is a view from up at the indoor riding facility looking down. We stood, most of us, at this corner looking over the rear the other day. And this picture looks a fair bit different than what you all saw when we were out there. So right in about this area is where the rectangular outdoor arena lies. And this picture shows you post-construction of the indoor facility, but pre-construction of the outdoor arena. What we're trying to replicate in some ways, but also then further expanding the wetlands. This swale that you see right here is Baiting Brook. Right now, the culvert sits right about here where this cattail patch is. I think most of you might remember seeing that cattail patch is visible. And there's the culvert right here, and then the riding arena sits through here. So this is the portion of Baiting Brook that was culverted. And then that agricultural farmer's ditch that we discussed is this swale feature right here. So you can see we had an upland condition in between the two, and just the wetland adjacent to Baiting Brook and the Baiting Brook itself, and then upland on the other side. So I think it's a helpful photograph to put that into context for you.
Scott, just to go back to
Yes.
that again.
Yes.
So closer to where we were standing, just the area down south of it. Is that like the lawn kind of area, or was it more, right there?
Right in here?
Yeah, where you're going to be
Yep.
proposing the new relocated outdoor rink.
So yeah, that was all within this agricultural field area. The far end of the new arena is going to go right about through here. So this is the down gradient edge of it will be right in about here. And remember that swale that's close to us, that's going to be lost and then replicated with additional wetlands down gradients. So I have a graphic of that I'll show you in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, that all sits within this area right here.
Yep. Okay.
There were questions about what other alternatives could have been considered for placement of the outdoor arena. And I only put this graphic up here in order to demonstrate that we were very limited in the opportunities for considering alternative locations out here. Yes, it's true. Early in the process, we were considering, with discussions of SVT, could the riding arena go back out in the woods over here in some uplands? Could it go maybe up where the paddocks are, for example? But we couldn't do that because everything you see hatched in the yellow cross hatching is the conservation restriction, of which the courts found that the riding arena, outdoor riding arena, qualified as a structure and therefore was not permissible within it. So this is our proposed reorientation, 90-degree shift further up slope in order to keep it outside of the hatch conservation restriction. So in effect, the CR eradicated the possibility for exploring alternate locations on the site. This is a very, very simplified view of the replication area. We just stripped off all the line work to make it as bare bones visible as possible. I could show you from the engineering site plans and the other graphics, the grading details, the inverts, the tie-ins to the wetlands, all of that. Those are details that DEP is happy with, SVT and his peer reviewer, Paul McManus from Ecotech, is happy with. And so I think all those will flush out to be good. This is just to demonstrate at a high level where things are at. Okay, so this hyphenated line is the conservation restriction area where we're setting the new riding arena out of to the east and to the north of the existing one. The proposed altered wetland condition is that swale, which is in red and brown. So it's red showing it to be a proposed lost wetland. Some of it is currently lost. It's underneath the arena, which is all right in here. But the remaining portion that's exposed would be lost as a result of this. And the brown area is the amount of stream channel or intermittent stream that is being altered as well. So what I want to emphasize in this graphic is simply this. The green, both the hatched and unhatched, are new areas of wetlands that we're going to be building. What is the solid green are areas that were previously identified as wetlands prior to the alterations. So when permits were being sought for the structured facility, the indoor facility, these wetlands were identified. So we know, and it matches up with that photograph, where the wetlands were prior to the alteration. That is this location of Bating Brook and the surrounding solid light green area. So that is a restoration in place in kind. I'm distinguishing restoration, meaning putting back what was there, versus replication, meaning making something new in replacement of something else lost. So we know that we're going to lose this area of red permanent wetland area lost. That's approximately 2,000 square feet, approximately. We're proposing to build everything you see here in hatched green. That is approximately 11,000 and change square feet. So we are in excess of a 5-to-1 ratio of wetlands lost to wetlands gained with this program. I wanted to emphasize that because under state law, we're required only to meet a 1-to-1 replication standard. And this additional area was put there in consideration for going above and beyond the minimum requirements, recognizing that there's going to be a conversation with this board, hopefully tonight, we can bring this closer to a conclusion, to demonstrate that the work that we're doing and the mitigation that we're proposing for that work sufficiently offsets the alterations to the wetland itself, the 30-foot, the 50-foot areas that we're working in, albeit we have also demonstrated that it's existing agricultural, previous agricultural, and future agricultural. We still wanted to demonstrate that we were enhancing the functions and values of the resource areas. In addition to just having a straight shot of Bating Brook with its linear feet, we're proposing to replicate it with an equal linear foot orientation so that we'll have 220 approximately lost, 220 put back, but we want to add some sinuosity to it for a little more ecological interest to work in with the landscape, and then we'll tie it into Bating Brook. Very different than what it is now, which is more or less operating like an agricultural farmer's ditch for managing drainage. So I feel like this is the simplest way to take all the details, all the discussion, all the hubbub about what's being proposed in the most simple format. There was a question then about, well, how much work is going to be proposed within the 30 feet and the 50 foot? So the question can be answered in two different ways. If we look at the 30 and the 50 foot over what's there today, Well, that's a different question because that intermittent stream runs through effectively right through the center here. Okay, you can see it right there, in fact, in this aerial photograph. So the 30 foot would be something like up in here. But we're proposing that that's eliminated, replicated, and restored. So this graphic shows where the final analysis will land the 30 foot and the 50 foot, which would be relevant under your bylaw. So everything in light yellow, about 1,700 square feet, would be work that is relative to the outdoor riding arena within 30 feet of the final wetland that we end up creating on site. And then a little over 5,000 or 5,200 square feet would be within 50 feet. All that would be agricultural activities, and all that would be utilized for horse purposes. So it wouldn't have vegetation and such like that. All the vegetated areas would be outside of the arena. So I have this slide just for questions. I have some detailed slides if we want to get into those. This is a little bit busy, so I wanted to simplify it.
Yep.
So I think while we have a conversation, I'm going to leave this graphic up and open it back up to the commission to discuss.
Okay, Kevin.
I've never seen.
Terrible, Kevin, can't hear you.
No, still.
Yeah, there's a squeaking sound. I don't know what's going on.
About that.
Yeah, it's still.
Still. All right, I'll step away and grab my headset.
Okay.
I'll come back and
All
ask my question.
right. In the meantime, other commissioners. All right. Okay, Steve Weisman.
So I think the restoration and replication plan is very interesting. I think a lot of work has been done and it looks like very good work. For me, the new construction portion is very separate from the enforcement order. Just in principle. We generally would require a notice of intent for new construction. But for the existing project, maybe this is the restoration and replication project, part of the project. What is DEP's ongoing role in this? Are they going to be overseeing construction, doing quality assurance? Do you have any information about that, Scott?
I do. So Libby Sabujan at DEP Northeast Regional Office is heavily involved in the review of this. SVT has its own wetland scientist as well, who's interested in overseeing this for SVT's purposes. But the responsibility for monitoring and reporting on the progress of construction and the success following thereafter. And by the way, DEP is requiring 5 years of monitoring on this as opposed to a more traditional 2 or 3 year period. That will be all done by me and my firm. And our reports will be going out to SVT, DEP, and the Conservation Commission for review. Nothing's happening out here behind closed doors. This is all, kind of open season for review. So I would welcome as many site walks and inspections by you and your staff, DEP and the SVT reviewers as this is going on. So this is all going to be, hope, in a very transparent process, and it's going to be done very professionally with appropriate documentation and submittals to all those agencies.
Scott, so you will be, Goddard Consulting will be the environmental monitor?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Steve?
Yeah, I still am. So I'm struggling with our responsibility for these resource areas as a commission and the necessity for our ongoing involvement to the project, with the project, and what the resource burden could be for us in doing that. And again, this doesn't speak to anything about the quality of what's been proposed. It's really just about process. So that's why I was asking the question.
Yep. Okay. Attorney Nyland, do you want to respond to address Steve?
Yeah. Scott was, and his portion was to describe the work that was taking place, and then was to be kicked back to me to talk about this enforcement order as opposed to the notice of intent. So I just like to give a little overview on that because I think that's important, and then the commission can ask questions about both items instead of kicking back and forth. So I'm aware that first let me lower my hand here. I'm aware this is an issue for the commission. I told you last time I sat on my commission for 9 years, and I've been doing these enforcement matters. For some reason, they don't call Boston lawyers on 5-foot work in the buffer zone. So I've done a lot of enforcement orders over time. So the first thing I want to let you know is it is legal for you to handle this through an enforcement order. As a matter of fact, DEP is approving this project, which includes removal, restoration, replication, and reconfiguration under the Wetlands Act with this, with the order that we're entering into with them. So they are already approving it under the Wetlands Act. So the issue is, as far as the commission is concerned, your role in terms of approving this under the under your wetlands ordinance. So there's no, so it is legal, and the department has signed off on it. And as Scott has said, the department has been involved from the beginning. As a matter of fact, when we first were involved, they asked Framingham if they would stay their action so that the department could get involved and control how the restoration and reconfiguration was going to work. The second thing is this a precedent? Well, as far as enforcement is concerned, you have ultimate discretion in terms of what you approve. There actually is a violation here because we have the intermittent stream, which is the one that's shown in red, which has been culverted and has been filled. So it is an enforcement matter. As you're well aware, a precedent is when you have a same situation and you treat it differently. Well, you have a very unique situation here because you have an enforcement matter, but you also have a desire to get this restoration done at the best time, which we've been told by our wetland people would be in the fall. So in terms of being concerned that somebody else will knock on the door and say, well, why can't you handle it the way that you did with Iron Horse? Well, every fact situation, as you know, from sitting on the commission is different. So there is no precedent that's involved. The third question is it in the interest of the public? And I think in that instance, it's very clear. You know, what we've done is we've come up with a plan that will do all of the work at the same time. As Scott indicated, we had to pivot this riding arena in order to stay outside of the restricted area and to stay inside the building envelope. That means all of this work will be taking place at the same time. That soils will be removed and will be used in both places. There'll be mobilization and demobilization. If we split this up into two, you're going to have work that's either we're going to have to wait until the spring, or you're going to have work on two different instances, which really doesn't make sense in terms of the species or the timing or the efficiency. In terms of it being in the interest of the public, it's transparent. We're dealing with SVT, who's the large holder of the conservation restriction. This will be done in a public process, and you have the DEP as well as SVT that will be monitoring for a number of years to make sure that we are in compliance with the Framingham ordinance as well as with the Wetlands Act and others. So, we've thought long and hard as to whether or not it made sense to file a notice of intent. If we file a notice of intent, that won't take place until September. We won't have a hearing until October. And by the time we get through it, that season will be past us. Where what we can do now is we can enter into, an enforcement order where you would have all the same conditions that you would place if you were issuing an order of conditions having to do with timing, monitoring, and reporting that you would in an order of conditions. So I'm just going to sum it up by saying our ask for tonight is to allow us to negotiate or deal with the city solicitor who's on vacation. She's not with you tonight, to see whether or not we can work out an enforcement order that meets the conditions that the commission wants to have attached so that the resource areas are protected and that we're able to go forward and do this work this fall. So we're not asking you to prove anything tonight. We're asking you to say, yes, it makes sense for you to have a discussion with the city solicitor to see if we can work this out as part of an enforcement order.
Okay, that will, again, I think as a commission, that is the key, and we would want to come to a conclusion on that too tonight.
So thank you for your time.
Yep, no worries. I mean, we'll get to that. I think a couple of the commissioners and Rob Gemmer have been who patiently waiting. Let's go to Kevin, who wanted to speak first.
Okay, we'll check the headset.
Yep, got
Nice.
it. Nice.
All right.
Sounds good.
It's a new computer today, so a couple of things. One, the way you presented the impact, Scott, and the shifting of the news stream, and then having a 30-foot buffer set off the news stream seems counter to anything I've seen before. You don't move the stream and then say we've got a new resource limit. It should be based on what the original was before the violation, which is what we have here. So I don't think your calculations are correct as far as that, and you can explain if I'm wrong there. So I think we need to see what the impacts were from the original violation, and then what the proposal is, and have those in a matrix so you can see what the net benefit is. And I understand it is, a net gain after the violation. But restored and recreated wetlands are not as good as original, in general. The other is, I am not I don't even know if I say it right, dressage arena expert, but my quick Google search shows that a standard arena is 20 meters by 60 meters versus 66 feet by 197 feet. Is that the inner gate that I see there, the inner fence, and then there's an exterior area that's necessary to bring the horses around? Is that why it's much wider and longer than the standard that's set by the United States Equestrian Federation, or could this be shrunk?
So I can tackle a couple of those questions. I think first, Bob Gemma, who's on the call from Metro West Engineering, can you comment first on the question that Kevin had about the dimensions of the arena? I know this design is very specific for Olympic training.
Yeah, and I know nothing about this except my Google search, so I'm just questioning what what Google tells me.
Well, I may know less than you, Kevin, but my education is from visiting the site. And the way this works is you're correct in that the exterior dimensions are one dimension, but if you go out there and you watch the performers, or I guess athletes is what they're called, execute their things, they have cones inside the limit of the current rink, which conform to the dimensions that I believe that you referenced.
Okay.
So there's basically, I don't know, 6 to 10 feet, something of that magnitude between the cones and the exterior dimension on the existing facility that's being used.
Yeah.
Okay. On the aerial, it looks bigger. It looks like 20 feet, but I can't really it's not, I can't scale this off, but it looks like it's a lot bigger than that dimension.
This, what we,
So I just wonder whether it could be lesser, and then you have lesser impact in the resource areas.
And then
And
so
still
I'm
meet the
pretty,
intent of the you know, standard.
I know DEP, Kevin, did have us, you know, sort of hone in on the dimensional requirements of this arena, and the owners who are not with us tonight, but they are experts on these dimensional requirements, and, you know, assured us 17 ways from Sunday that these are the absolute necessary dimensions to make this work. I mean, all of us on the team wanted to make this as small as was practical and necessary to accomplish the objectives of the sport and the training of the horses. As far as your other comment goes, briefly, yeah, I did mention that, yeah, right. I understand exactly what you're saying. Like, we could take this existing orange and brown area and throw a 30-foot line that would go something like this, and a 50-foot line that would go something like this on both sides of it, and it would incorporate, you know, 80% of the proposed arena. As opposed to what we're doing now is moving that all to the left, which will end up with a net lesser amount of square footage within the arena, of course. So the number of square feet within the proposed versus the existing 30 feet is going to be a much lesser number. So yes, we're altering existing work within the 30 feet, but the purpose of that 30-foot zone is to protect the adjacent resource areas. So I think it's a reasonable analysis to look at the pre and post. We could say on the precondition, we're altering, you know, whatever the square foot number is. I don't have it, but, you know, it's going to be a substantial number. You know, it could be something like, you know, half an acre or something like that. And then now we're only altering, you know, 3,000 to 5,000 square feet of the 30 or the 50 respectively. So
I've never seen that, Scott.
What's that?
That's to me is a.
I'm not trying to make
it's not a reasonable position. It's just not the way you calculate impacts. You don't say, after I do everything I want, this is what the new resources is. So we're taking a buffer off of that. That's what you presented. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying this any opinion on this project. Just let's be reasonable here. Let's present it the way that it's supposed to be in the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw, and not say that this is post-condition buffer.
Yeah, Kevin, I think your comment is fair, and I'm happy to do it. I presented it this way because there was a request at the site walk to present this information. So that's why I was presenting this information. So that's it. I have no problem presenting it the way that you're suggesting, you know, sort of ethically or scientifically or whatever. But I know what the numbers are going to show. It's going to have a large number of existing.
And the mitigation should be responsive to that number.
And what our restoration program is focused more on the wetlands themselves for increasing it to that 5-to-1 ratio. So there's a weighted value of the wetland itself being the thing that we're trying to, you know, protect more necessarily than the buffer adjacent to it. So it makes it hard to make an apples to apples comparison, but if it's the will of the commission to produce those numbers, it's easy enough. In some ways, the conversation is further reduced of its significance because of the nature of being a fully agricultural field as well, that it was like the picture shows here, you know, that 30-foot. So if we drew our lines adjacent to our swale here, you know, 30 feet would be right there, 50 feet would be right there, and vice versa on the other side. So it's a little bit different than typical.
Yeah, I just think the next applicant that comes in that says, well, we filled in all this resource area, so therefore the area change doesn't make sense.
Kevin, you have not gone out there, right?
I've been all around there multiple times. I bike and hike out this
Yeah.
area, but I wasn't on the site visit because I had COVID.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
one of the biggest things again, I think we're kind of like, going past our time, but the thing that our goal for today is to decide on how to proceed, whether it's going to be an enforcement order or do we need a notice of intent. So I think we need to kind of focus on that, but point noted, Kevin, one of the biggest things for me when I did go out there is I was surprised to see there's no, I don't know. I mean, it is an intermittent stream is what it is labeled as, but there's nothing upstream at all. So
Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Well, there's
Mr.
a pond
Chairman.
upstream, isn't there?
That's a good point. There was one other point that's worth making about as the commission's deliberating on this is that Baiting Brook right now is dry. And, we have an opportunity within the season of time, which is the preferred time to work on this work when it's not flowing. So to me, as a scientist on this, it suggests that timing is a consideration when the commission deliberates. So thank you.
So
Absolutely.
okay. So I think Gene, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you all for the presentation. I'm somewhat a novice to all this stuff here, but I understand how we got here. I understand there was, in my view, a regulatory conflict with definitions, and someone who's trained professional is taught to rely heavily on definitions, and apparently that was a failure of the regulatory system. I was out looking at the site. I viewed the site, and you've got Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection and the Sudbury Trust, STV, is it Sudbury Valley Trust, SVT,
Yep.
Who have agreed to this reconciliation proposal. Based on what I'm looking at and what I've seen in the field, I think this is more than reasonable. I would be open to the issuing the order of conditions. And I'm looking at the numbers that Kevin mentioned, and it looked to me like the replication numbers were significant. 2,000 square feet to 11,000 square feet, and 1,700 square feet to 5,000 square feet. So unless I'm missing something,
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
this,
yeah. That's where, Gene,
that's where I'm
that's
leaning.
what Kevin had pointed out. So I think Scott will not have an issue recalculating those numbers and representing that. That's again, we're getting into the details, but I think we need to kind of, if the commission can kind of focus on the like, I would like to have the applicant's representatives make a case for why it needs to be a notice of intent and why not an enforcement order. So it's I think I would want us to focus on that. So we can kind of like, once we get through that hurdle, I think we'll have plenty of time to discuss get into all the nitty gritty, the calcs, the details, all of that stuff. So that would probably be the best usage of the time, because we got a couple of other items too in where we'll spend a ton of time on this one. So if we can do that, cross the bridge, and then we can move on to the details. So Gene, did you have anything else process related in terms of the enforcement order versus notice of intent?
No, I just wanted to say, I think that it's reach a consensus. We've got two partners with a third partner, and I would be in favor of issuing an enforcement order.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Rob, you've been waiting patiently. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, and I just want to speak to the very topic that you were talking about, Sam, enforcement versus NOI, and also touch on what Steve Weisman had mentioned about, bifurcating the enforcement action versus the construction of the replacement arena. And from a engineering and constructability point of view, the two projects will be intricately linked, because the materials in that existing riding arena need to be salvaged and and basically be stockpiled somewhere and then used for the new riding arena. So it's a much simpler process if both projects are moving simultaneously. If the enforcement action was restricted to the restoration replication, that's going to create some major constructability issues in terms of how to deal with those materials and that sort of thing. And frankly, I'm not sure that our client and owner would be able to manage that with his financing problems too, because it's not an inexpensive proposition to both do the restoration and the replication, and there's financing involved in terms of both aspects of it. So I do think, and the ideal time to proceed with the restoration work is today, because the area is pretty dry out there. But those materials that are coming out, they just can't be sent off site, to a landfill. Those need to be reused because they're expensive, unique materials that are used in this particular facility. So I think as a commission, I would ask that you consider that as you deliberate. And that's all, Sam. The only other thing I would say too is to Kevin's point earlier, Chris Canton from my office and I actually were bouncing how to present the same information that Scott presented earlier today. And ultimately I arrived at something that's, I think, analogous to what you asked for, Kevin. So we have schematics, but as Sam said, we don't probably need to get into the weeds tonight. But we actually prepared it along the lines that you were thinking of. So.
Just to kind of state, when I did the site walk, I think it was Steve Weisman that made the request to Scott. Either Scott or I think maybe it might be you, Rob Gemma.
We talked about trying to portray all the different no build 50 foot,
but
all that stuff. And
but I think Steve, what Steve was looking for, if I understand it correctly, was the pre-disturbance conditions. So that is similar to what Kevin's referring to. So
but we do have that.
Yep. I know. And again, there's plenty of details that need to be worked out, but I think we need to focus on the procedural matter, how to kind of get this going. So, all right, let's see, David Anderson or David S. I don't know who was first. So
I was first.
Okay, good.
I did watch the dressage on the Olympics, and to the casual observer, it appears that your riding rink is exactly what the Olympics had, to include the markers on the interior rink. I appreciate you showing the aerial photo. It gives a very good idea of the pre-existing conditions. And I understand you're trying to make the best of this challenging situation and address it faster than slower. And Kevin, I understand your concern with, the swale, but out there, the pond did not, attach to the swale. The pond attaches to Bating Brook, and that swale is even shown in the aerial photo is practically nothing. And so to get this apples to apples compare, you're not just, having to deal with, we already have a watermelon. So how do we slice it and do it quickly? And, I look at this and, we have to look at this on a case by case basis. And whether it be enforcement order or notice of intent, how can we restore this area the fastest?
Yep, I agree. Yep. Okay.
I agree also.
All right. David A, are you good?
I'm good.
Yep, David S.
Yes. I was out there as well and spent an hour or so and was talking with the owner and learned a lot. Becca was standing right next to me and Jean as well with the conversations regarding this. This is a very special case because it's an Olympic training facility. This is not just some barn, some guy with some horses. This is a Olympic training facility. The original rink was put on a farm. They have a right to farm on this property. It was a Christmas tree area. It was manicured. They showed the manicured before, they showed the manicured afters. It wasn't natural wetlands that were destroyed when this entire rink was put up, and they're not doing that now with the new rink. So I respectfully disagree with the fact that the wetland replication does matter. The 5-to-1 does matter, that we will end up with better natural wetlands in the long run. The wetlands will win in this proposal, which is why DEP, which is why SVT is for this. That's why they're supporting it, because in the long run, it is better for the wetlands. That's why it meets the Wetland Acts requires. Our 30 and 50-foot zones are not the driving factor in this decision. When you look at the big picture of the necessity of having this combination of building the new construction along with the replication and the restoration all at the same time. And I am very strongly for this enforcement order because of the timing. And we have to remember that there's a court order that says this has to be done in a certain time. And that it's an aggressive timeline. And I learned that by talking to the owner and going through it with him. And Becca and Jean and I were both, all three of us were listening to the explanation. So those are the considerations we all have in front of us.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David. Yes. Stephen D. Nicole.
Hi, yeah, is it premature to make a motion to amend the enforcement order? And allow them to work with the city solicitor to come up with appropriate language so that they can move forward with a restoration?
I would second that.
I would be interested in seeing if Steve Weisman has any follow-up, or I do have a couple of things in Kevin. Again, we want to, I know we got into a little bit of the details, but I want to again come back to the big item, which is why an enforcement order and why not a notice of intent. And I know some of you had stated it, but I just want to hear it from Steve and Kevin. And I think that's and I have a couple of things. So let me go to Steve first.
I don't think Steve's done yet.
Oh no. Oh,
His hand's
okay.
still up.
I remember we had was there a benefit to going with a notice of intent? And I understand what people are saying about moving it forward and the difference between them. But I think what they were asking, and I think it was reasonable, was that they wanted to have permission to work with the city solicitor, come up with an enforcement order that was appropriate. I think we would have an opportunity to sign off on that language, and it would allow them to move forward. If we went with a notice of intent, I don't know if we end up with any benefit or if we lose the ability of enforcement.
No.
I agree with you. I mean, I would like someone to better explain, because I don't understand the difference, other than moving forward with an enforcement order allows them to not lose momentum and to continue doing, what everybody has agreed. There's a lot of eyes on this. I don't want to hinder it or create any speed bumps. I just wanted to, I'd like to see them do it as quick as possible for several reasons.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you.
Stephen Nicole. I wanted to ask a couple of questions again on behalf of the commission, or on my personal thing, not personal, but like, on my behalf. I want to kind of like, satisfy myself that, enforcement order is the way to go and not notice of intent. So I don't want that like couple of minutes. So that's exactly why. So if you're done.
Can I respond to that, Sam?
Yes.
So I understand all the pressures as well, and I'm only looking for some assurance that whatever level of control and scrutiny we would have through the NOI process we retain through the EO process.
Absolutely, yes.
And so I don't know whether the way to do that is to create some kind of checklist where we indicate what the features are of the NOI process and see whether all those things are checked off by what we could get through the EO process. And if they're not, we can recover them through special conditions.
Yeah, that's exactly, Steve, I exactly wanted to go through that. I just wanted to kind of like,
Go ahead, Sam. Sam, go through it. Go through it. Let's do it.
Let me, I think Gene has his hand. No, he took it down. Attorney Nyland.
Well, I put my hand up so I can answer your questions relative to the control that you will have. And it is the same control that you have under an order of conditions. When we say that it will be under the enforcement order, this is going to be under a legal document that's issued by the commission to us that sets the conditions, identifies the plan that we need to follow, establishes the milestones and the monitoring. And it's signed by the commission. And so you have, the only difference is it's under an enforcement order as opposed to an order of conditions. In terms of the commission's involvement and ability to enforce and monitor, there is not one iota of difference.
Is there, may I ask, is there something comparable to certificate of compliance through the EO process? That has the same weight?
Yes, what we'll have is what it'll be is called a return to compliance letter. That just similar to a certificate of compliance, when we have finished our work and we're in compliance, we have to come to the commission and provide you the equivalent of an as-built plan and ask that you find that we've returned to compliance and therefore the enforcement order has been satisfied.
As well as all the monitoring.
So you have control from the beginning until the end.
Well, that was why I was trying to make the separation between the restoration process on one hand and the construction process on the other hand, because the standards are going to be somewhat different between the two.
Right. But we can
One's
still
new
do 'em
construction,
one after the other.
the other is going back to what it was before.
Right, but again, this is going to be one site plan that Rob has explained that is involves all the removal, the restoration, the replication, and the reconfiguration. It's all on one plan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, a quick Kevin and then Becca.
I just want to say that I'm in favor of the enforcement order. I agree everything that Chip said. That's my experience with enforcement orders. It's as enforceable as order conditions.
Okay, all right, Becca.
Yeah, so two things quick, Sam. One, just mindful of the time, we're over an hour behind for other
I
applicants.
know. Yep.
And then anyone that hasn't looked at the judgment that was already put forward, it's probably worthwhile reading. There's very specific conditions that were already agreed to in terms of monitoring and what they're going to be held accountable for during restoration and construction. So anyone that hasn't looked at that judgment definitely should.
Thank you, that's helpful.
And we have to follow it. It's a legal document, right?
Right. So let me go to ask two quick questions with Attorney Nyland. Could you, are you or the team satisfied with the construction schedule, meaning that they can mobilize, they can get all the work done this fall?
Yeah, that's what we're basing on. This fall means, right up through September, October, and into early November. So yes, we believe we've talked to the construction people, we've talked to Fields and Footing. So we're on all sides. That is the removal side plus the reconfiguration side, and everyone is scheduled to be able to do that work.
So that the reason I ask is if we rush through this and we go through the enforcement order and not the notice of intent, and then you guys can kind of say like, let's wait until spring. Then it defeats the purpose. We should have gone through notice of intent. So that's what I'm trying to get at. But the biggest thing that I know you kind of touched on about the public participation and being open and all of that stuff, but I think the notice of intent does require, like, public notification, public participation. Is there, all things being equal, is there a way to notify the public to attend? Because the abutters may not know the current status, or so is there a way to get them involved is what I'm saying. I mean, again, I don't think there's an issue, but I think that is a big piece that is missing if we go the enforcement order route.
I apologize for interrupting.
No, that's fine.
I talked to Bridget Bradley about this, and I offered that we would write to the abutters and to let them know that, because this is going to be back in front of you. If you send us along and say, yes, you can work this out, we still have to come back because you need to sign this document. So we could notify, SVT is well aware. I've been sending them copies of plans. But other abutters, we could send a letter out and tell them when you're going to be hearing it, and if that would help the commission.
Yes, definitely. I mean, definitely on to me,
great.
that's a big thing. And I think I think you convinced, and Kevin kind of backed it, that enforcement order is like, has the authority similar to notice of intent. So I think if that is the way to go, I think the public notification or participation is a big piece that I was kind of hung up on, so to say. But if you can notify the abutters, that'll be fantastic. So, all right. With that said, I think anybody else has anything else?
Yeah, just one more question for Attorney Nyland. Could you tell us what the timeline is for SVT and DEP formally signing off? It looked like what was shared with us was a draft.
Right. So the DEP and Iron Horse were at the end of the discussions. I didn't want to sign off until I'd come through the Conservation Commission to see where you were. So that will probably, if that doesn't happen this week, that's going to happen at the beginning of next week. The SVT is already, that judgment has already been entered, and the requirement we have is we follow their provisions. However, if DEP or Framingham differs, then you control. That is, the court knows that you're the regulatory agency, you being DEP and yourselves. So if there's some conflict between what you want versus what SVT has wanted, then yours will control. So that's said, and DEP has, I think Rob will say, was signed off on the plan this week. So everybody's in line at this stage.
As a practical matter, Libby from DEP is hoping that I'm going to send her hard copies tomorrow after we meet with you folks tonight.
So Sam, I'm ready to make a motion too, then, if we want to proceed.
Yep. All right. Or anyone else? I know Stephen Dino call was okay. All right.
He can make the motion.
No. All right. He's shaking his head. So
Go ahead.
all right.
Let's do it.
Go ahead, Steve.
Steve who?
Steve Weisman.
So I make a motion that the Conservation Commission signs on to the enforcement order process that is ongoing, and we authorize the proponents to enter into discussions with the city solicitor to come up with language that we will then formally approve when we see it.
Okay. Yep.
With the condition that they notify abutters.
With the condition that they notify abutters. Can we make that by a date certain?
I think it's in their interest. I think they need to do it ASAP.
Right.
They will.
ASAP.
So I don't think it needs to be date certain, but
okay. That was the motion then.
okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion?
I'll second. Oh, further discussion. Okay.
David AB,
Oh,
yeah.
too late.
Do we want to add SVT timeline to this motion? That we go with the aggressive timeline that's been
No, we're
proposed?
not getting into any of that. That's we just authorized them to coordinate with the city solicitor.
Legal counsel will do that for us.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we will take a roll call vote. Stephen D. Nicola,
Yes.
David A.
Yes.
Gene,
Yes.
Steve Weisman,
Yes.
David S.
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Sam, yes. Okay. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you for your time and patience.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Do we
Have a
get
good
some intermission time here?
I don't know. Yeah. Do you want a break? Are you serious?
I was only kidding, but now
No.
that you
Oh,
mention
okay.
it.
All right. Oh, okay. We used
Cross
to
your
do
legs,
that.
Gene. Let's finish this. Cross your
Back in the
legs.
day, we used to do that. But anyway, all right. Let's go to the next item on the agenda, which is an RDA 21 Lewis Frawley Drive. Proposed removal of 3 trees and mitigation plantings. This was continued from June 26, 2024. If there's anyone here for, okay, he's here. Doctor is here. Okay.
Hi.
Yep. Please introduce yourself for the record and give us an update.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Jorge Riveras. I am the owner of 21 Louis W. Farley Drive.
Okay.
I made a request after inspection by Dominic, and I believe Rebecca was here with him on time, where 3 trees were of a lot of concern for me for the safety of my property. I also discovered that they were creating dramatic shade over the solar panel roof that I installed. I presented that. The commission requested that I came back with letters from the solar roof company to determine technically exactly how much the shade was, and also that I hire a professional arborist to make the professional assessment. I did that. It took me a little bit of a while. I just discovered that arborists are the new neurosurgeons of the environment. And it took me a while to get the extremely professional gentleman that I hired. So he issued the letter, which probably you have a copy of, where he, well, you can read it, but I will summarize it by his recommendation is that 2 trees are certainly dangerous, and the other one probably should be pruned. He also made recommendations, and I know that you were an internal debate the other day of what type of plant, what type of tree, what the height. He made recommendation of some trees that he basically recommended could be to the one to substitute the trees. So I'm here trying to get your feedback after you read the letter from the arborist.
Okay. We did request the certificate from the arborist, and he did get it. And I think your one was to be pruned and 2 could be removed. Is that correct?
2 to be removed because they're dangerous, and the structure of the trees are and other things, technical things are not proper.
Yeah, and you're not cutting it all the way down. You're leaving up to 10 feet of the trunk.
No, what I was told, it was 5 feet. And I have to mention something that he mentioned to me, but I didn't want to create any controversies with this, because he was the opinion that but he want to leave it up to you. He was of the opinion that when you remove entirely the tree and you plant the new trees in that space, sometimes it could be better depending on the conditions of the area. I did not want to mention any of this. Is not in the letter because from the beginning I said, and Rebecca maybe remember this, 5 feet was the height. We were not, you were not in agreement of the trees. I mentioned the trees that he mentioned to me.
All right. I think it's, what do we recommend, Becca? 5 feet minimum?
Yeah, I don't know where the 5 feet number. We usually tell people, all right, anywhere from like 10 to 12 feet usually as like a snag tree to deteriorate in place for wildlife. But I also read the letter from your consulting arborist, and the letter recommended cutting the trees low was, I think, the wording he used. And then as far as replacement trees mitigation, he didn't include that in the letter, so I don't know if you want to share that with the commission.
It's on the email that I sent to Dominic. I can, in the email, I have the list which I can share with you right here, if you allow me to share.
Yep, go ahead.
You should be able to.
Okay. My recommendation for replanting include the shadblow cerviceae, and the technical name, Eastern red bun, technical name, royal raindrop crab apple, hornbeam or smoke bush. Those he make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 recommendations.
Okay. All right. Okay. And as far as replanting or planting, do we have any locations that you want to plant them, or do you have a plan showing where you want
to? I wouldn't mind planting them in the same areas where the other trees are, but I could also plant it elsewhere where probably will not create any problems in the future. I'm not completely familiar with how is the growth of these trees, but I imagine these trees are not going to be very tall trees.
Okay. Kevin?
I was just wondering, as far as when we're looking at the arborist letter, I thought we were really looking at danger to the home or to the structures rather than danger to somebody who happens to be walking out in a windstorm in the yard. So I wasn't sure when I read that letter that there was a justification for taking down the 2 trees.
Yeah.
And it comes back to our tree policy and how in being consistent. That's all.
Yep.
So I'm throwing it out mainly to the commission to say I'm really not sure how to interpret that letter. I understand the arborist said to trim up the tree closest to the river or the wetland, but the other 2, it was a danger of a limb falling in the yard, and if somebody were to walk under it, they would be hurt. And I've had some close calls with limbs falling. I know you don't want to get hit by a limb, so I'm but I'm just wondering whether that's the justification we're looking for.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think I recall this being in the 30-foot too, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's within the 30-foot.
Yeah. But again, the driver probably is the solar panels, so it's we'll be seeing more of that. But in this case, it was a 30-foot within the 30-foot, so that's why we kind of, Kevin, you do bring up the excellent point. Is like, okay, what's our policy? Is it the structures, like, safety of the structure of the home, and like, the people that are in there, or somebody that's walking out there. So good point.
I tend to think it's the structure of the home, like the home, like you don't want a tree falling through a bedroom in the middle of a storm and and destroying or the damage to the structure and potential life and of the people that are in there. But
Yeah, let's see what the other commissioners think. David S. was first, then I don't know if it was Steve
Yeah.
Weisman or Gene.
I read the letter too, and my interpretation was the same as Kevin's, and on all points actually that he made. And I went back and I looked at the risk of impact was not, at least for the oak, the red oak on the back of the property had nothing to do with falling towards the property. It's unlikely. So I was thinking, okay, so what are we doing? Why are we doing that? And I'm thinking, okay, it's for the access or for the solar panel efficiency. And again, I just go back to why trimming isn't an option for these. And I'm not the tree expert, but I could support trimming them, if that makes sense. But cutting them down, I mean, there is one that says observed decay on one of the two oak trees in the center. I mean, that's a legitimate concern. So I don't know. I gotta, I mean, Becca, when you read this, what's your sense for the right thing to do here with the two trees? I gotta ask you, I'm not sure.
I mean, I think that asking for an arborist's opinion to decide the likelihood of impact or hazard of a tree is a little different than maybe the commission's specific interest. When Jorge Harbert hired an arborist to go out there and evaluate, they're thinking about targets being structures, people, activity, not specifically just the house. So I don't know if that was kind of a lack of clear communication that, the commission's interest was specifically structures versus any type of target that's typically identified in tree risk.
Okay, so safety okay, so it can go to other things. Okay. All right. Well, all right, that answers my question at least.
Okay. I think it was
Thanks,
either
Sam.
Gene or
It's Gene, I'm last.
okay. You're muted, Gene.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated. So I would have to say to my colleagues here, this is what I will call a dilemma. And this is what I anticipated because we don't have good policy. And I think maybe one of the things that comes out of this is maybe we want to put in our policy that we request that the arborist give us recommendations or suggestions. And here's why. Once you decide this, you become designer of record. You become the engineer of record. This committee takes on that responsibility. And I'll read from you. I had to read this several times, and I'm like you, I'm somewhat dumbfounded. I'm reading the second paragraph to the bottom, the last two lines. These trees, these plural trees, pose a risk of impact to people in proximity to the trees. I determine the risk of the trees by using best management practices as outlined in the ANSI, American National Standards Institute A300 standard. So it's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like in the ANSI that Gene is referring to, like I said, in the tree world, targets are defined as people or activities.
Okay, that's good to know. And we we
know.
asked for a certificate, and then a professional certified it. So I would tend to go with that.
Okay.
My suggestion is we follow the direction of the arborist, and it's not clear exactly what he's saying, but that's what this committee should be doing, in my view.
Okay, all right. All
I'll
right,
support that.
who wants to go next? Steve.
So I think the issue of solar access is something we're going to hear a lot more about. I think back when I was in the solar world, we used to focus on solar access and the effect of neighbors' trees on people's panels, where the neighbors' trees grew up and suddenly somebody found the panel that they had made a $20,000 investment in completely shaded and with no access to the sun. I think this is different because the trees are on Jorge's property. I think But the 30-foot no touch zone is different. That's kind of a public resource in some ways. And that's another dilemma that we face here.
Yeah.
It's a buffer that's meant to be protected because it's part of the commonwealth, if you will.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm comfortable with taking the 2 trees down, using our typical 10 to 12-foot standard for what's left, because I do think the habitat is important in that area, and that we get Becca involved with, or some member of staff, with looking at the pruning to make sure that what's left isn't a toothpick.
Right, exactly. I agree. Yeah.
But in this case, I'm okay with it. And as for the trees that are replacement trees, I don't know if ornamentals are really the same thing. I mean, the spirit of this is really to replace trees in kind with trees in kind. So if there's a way that you can find a location that to plant a tree that's going to grow as tall as an oak tree, but doesn't shade your yard, I think that would be a better decision.
Okay. The other thing too is typically we kind of, again, this is one other thing that we need to finalize on is 2 to 1. So are we kind of saying stick to 2 to 1 or 1 to 1?
I'm comfortable with staying with 2 to 1 until we have a better defined policy. I mean, we've certainly talked about the question of size of the tree and the amount of biomass that's being taken out. And I think Kevin talked at one point about the CO2 gathering potential difference from a small tree and a big tree, but we haven't come up with that policy yet. So I think we're still with where we are.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Steve. David A.
Almost getting hit by a tree limb that was of substantial size that would have killed me, about a month ago. I think we have to take people as well as structures and shading into mind. And we should always look for the opinion of an arborist and take that into our judgment. So I'm quite good with, what he recommended. Now, either the owner plants ornamental trees or like kind, I think that's his choice. But I would want that the trees that are potentially dangerous be taken down sooner than later.
So we'll still leave the 10 to 12 feet.
And
for
there's a reason.
taken
It's,
down.
that's for habitat.
Yeah.
Leaving the stumps.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? Nope. Okay. So for good, we need, I'd like to entertain a motion.
So this is an RDA, right?
Yep.
So do we do an RDA with conditions?
That's what I was going to suggest.
Yes.
That's what I was going to suggest, Steve. A -3 with some conditions.
Yeah.
To follow the arborist recommendations, and that there be a clear definition of what new trees would be planted.
And well, the arborist said low stumps. We're going to specify that the
10 to 12.
Yeah, 10 to 12.
It's worth mentioning too, Steve, the recommendations from the arborist were not all native trees, which typically we recommend.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think we should go with native trees. And I actually don't think that we should let the homeowner decide. I think we should provide some better guidance, because it could be anything.
Would Becca or Dom be able to do that?
Yeah, we can
For the
give
applicant?
the typical native planting list that we normally provide applicants.
Okay. Okay, all right. I don't know if that was a motion, David S. or
No, let me try it. Let me issue make a motion to issue a -3 determination with the special condition that we follow the arborist letter recommendations, with the exception of the trees that are cut down will be left 10 to 12 feet stumps, and that the owner will work with the administration to plant new trees that are native trees that are in agreement with the Concom administration
With a 2-to-1 ratio.
with a 2-to-1 ratio.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Steve Weisman,
Yes.
Stephen D. Nicola,
Yes.
David S.,
Yes.
David A.,
Yes.
Gene,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Sam, yes. Okay, thank you, Lori. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Yep.
You're
Have a good night.
welcome. Have a good night.
Will I be receiving a letter or from the commission? Is that the next procedure, next step?
Yep, Becca.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Jorge, I can connect with you via email. So yeah, we'll give you a DOA, which is the determination of applicability, and it'll list the special conditions that were just discussed at the meeting. And then you and I can talk about the planting list and figure something out.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, we'll go to the next item on the agenda. It's an RDA, 103 Spruce Street, Josephine Dorian Mannion. Proposed lawn stripping, installation of irrigation, resodding, invasive plant removal, and mitigation plantings. I think it's Joe. Joe, please introduce yourself for the record and give us a brief description of your proposed project. Joe? We can hear you. You're not muted though. So.
Joe. Hello, Joe.
Take.
I don't know, Sam. he's trying.
Joe, can you hear us?
Is there a number
you
he could
text
call
him?
in?
Yeah, let me give him a call quick, Sam. Let me get the number off the RDA.
That 1 hour meeting probably put him to sleep.
David, nope. It's gone.
What's that, Sam?
David Sadowski wants
Oh.
to come in. I don't know why.
He was talking to somebody.
Yeah, can anyone read lips? You're muted.
I don't know. I think we should move on.
So the plan would be hopefully for them to be on speakerphone through the office. I don't know if everyone can hear them now.
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I apologize for the confusion. Basically, I live on 103 Spruce Street, and it's a spur of the Sudbury River. There's a bank that goes down to the river that was been cleared since I got here. It's defined by 2 granite posts. So we've had some invasive growth grow up, including a tree and a dead branch and a pine tree. And what I'm trying to do is clear the invasive growth and put it back with native plants, slow growing native plants for a plan I submitted.
Yep, go ahead.
Hello?
Yep, we're hearing you. Just go ahead. Hey, you stopped.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
No question. Are you finished?
You finished, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. What were the granite bounds for? Do you know?
I'm sorry, what?
The granite bounds.
I submitted pictures. There's two granite bounds that were here when we moved into the house. They were put in 1920 when the house was built, and there was always lawn to the riverbank. But that isn't really what the question is. The question is, it's one little area where invasive plants have grown in, and I'm just trying to replace it with native plants.
Mm-hmm.
All right. David S.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this area is, within the area of protection, right? It's subject to protection under our Wetlands Act. Is that correct, guys? Do you read it?
It's clearly protected by the wetlands.
Okay, yeah, because it's within the 30-foot buffer zone, no alteration zone. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the plan, can you see the plan? Can everybody see the plan?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. The proposed.
Okay.
Yeah, he shows the limit of the lawn, shows the invasive plant, small tree removal, 850 square feet. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I don't know.
Here we go.
I mean, I think this may require a notice of intent. But I'm gonna turf the rest of the conversation to my fellow commissioners and see what they think.
All right.
Yeah, well, the 30-foot zone, that's kind of like a, no alteration zone there. And we have traditionally encouraged people to put that back to native species. So this would be kind of almost like a precedent, I think. Now, if I'm wrong, am I getting this wrong? And then maybe something in the 50-foot zone.
So the distinction is, Gene and David S., this is existing lawn. So it's disturbed versus
Right.
So
Okay.
that's the distinction. So
Right.
there is an
It's not natural wetlands, correct, Sam?
yeah, I mean, it's not maintained as buffer. It's a maintained lawn. I don't know when it was converted to lawn, but it's been existent as a lawn. So yeah, that's the distinction. So yeah, that's why it's an RDEA, I think, and it's not
okay.
And they're like, they're existing lawn, and they're converting it to a lawn or making it better. So
yeah, so that's minimum impact then.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that it is the distinction, like I said, is it's existing lawn.
Got it.
It's still being used as lawn. So
Okay.
Stephen Nicola.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you keep saying it, and I don't see any pictures. I can't see anything telling me different, but this is already existing lawn being invaded by invasive species, and they want to continue maintaining landscaped area.
We're not proposing to change the lawn area at all. We want to replace the lawn as it is.
Okay.
I want to take out the invasive stuff stuff that came out and where you see the red area on your map,
Yeah,
replace
Yeah.
it with, native plants.
Okay.
right.
Yeah, it's just that, yep. This is something that we always talk about where it borders, it's in the 30 foot and, you know, removal of invasive species, but that's not what we're talking about. It's pre-existing lawn. They have some encroachment by invasive. They want to clean it up and do the right thing and put things back
Mhm.
with more native species. Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Let's make a motion.
Okay.
Go ahead, Steve.
I move we issue a -3 with the condition that they replant this area with the trees or with the vegetation as proposed in the RDA application.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll
we have-
second.
We have a motion. We have a second discussion. My only thing would be because it's going to be the irrigation system being put in, which means that they want to have a lawn that looks really good. So there will be fertilizers and pesticides. So we need to limit that.
I was planning to start the one with irrigation. Is that an issue?
No, what I'm saying is it's the chemicals that you will be applying.
Understood.
Okay. So we need to
Limit.
Can we limit the phosphorus that's being applied? Or I think Massachusetts, excuse me, we've already moved towards
zero phosphorus. Yeah.
zero phosphorus, right?
Yep. Okay. So I don't know if we need to make like, you know, the motion needs to identify the special condition for not applying phosphorus.
Where?
On the lawn.
Well, I get that, but the 30, the 50, what's the limit?
I mean, if you look at their property versus the others, I mean, the others have a good buffer to that water body, but they are just right there. So
Right.
anything and everything that they do on their lawn is directly
Going to run off. Yeah.
Right into the tributary of the Sudbury. Or
I would not limit it to 30 or 50. I would just say the entire lawn. I mean,
Can we condition just best practices, limited use of phosphorus?
that we can.
No, I think no use of phosphorus.
Okay.
Be very
Yeah.
specific.
All right. So okay. Who made the motion? Was it?
I did. Yeah. So
Yep.
can we just add that to the
Yep.
motion?
Yep. Please.
Limit the
Can
use
you
of.
amend your motion?
No, not limit, no use.
No
No use of
use, right.
fertilizers.
Okay, that is your amended motion, and
Yes.
who seconded it?
Understood.
Who
Dave
seconded it?
I second it.
Okay, do you accept that amendment? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Discussion we just did. Let's take the roll call vote. Steve Weisman,
Yes.
Steve DiNicola,
Yes.
David S.,
Yes.
David A.,
Yes.
Gene,
Yes.
Kevin,
yes.
Sam, yes. Okay, you're all set. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Very much. Thank you. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
All right, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Your next
Nice
item on
job,
the agenda.
Becca.
Yeah, that was a good job, Becca. Really.
Notice of intent, DEP file number 1581668, 63 and 75 Fountain Street, Boulder Engineering, proposed demolition of existing buildings, construction of a 50,000 square foot building and associated parking areas, stormwater management system, utilities and landscaping. Yep, John's back again. Okay.
Hey, everyone. We've got a few folks with me. I think Scott Goddard should be included as a panelist. And
Oh boy,
Matt,
Scott's
Him
back
again?
Oh my
yeah, you
God.
can't get enough of them.
Yes.
And then Matt Ferris, he's with the ownership group. If we can just have him in case you have any questions for him.
All right, before we begin, John and the team, I don't think we have our staff had time to conduct any review or like, you know, I think a site visit probably would be best. So I think what I would do is use this time to kind of go over, give us a brief presentation of what the project is, and then we can continue, and then we can do the site walk, and then hopefully we can get some reviews done, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty after in the next meeting. Good.
We're good with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Scott Goddard. Would you like me to proceed with an overview presentation?
Yes, please. Yep.
I saw one member of your commission has a hand up. Do you want me to proceed, or?
Gene?
Yeah, I just asked a quick administrative question. I just happened to notice you get two addresses, 63 and 75. Is it typical that we'd only have one DEP number for two different street addresses? Is that typical?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is, Gene. If it's one project with multiple parcels, then it comes in as one project.
All right,
So
fair enough. Thank you.
That's not uncommon. And this project is immediately adjacent to the 59 COC, which is that building on the right side of the screen here as well. So there is a linkage between these projects. So I'm going to run through this at a high level. We don't have to get into the weeds on it. This is not going to be the closure of this public hearing process. So this application, in the same essence and substance, was before this commission about a year ago, for the same property addresses and a substantially similar project. And that was withdrawn and then refiled to the project you have today. So there was no order of conditions issued in the past. The reason it was withdrawn and continued was so that the planning board could review further modifications to the project, which resulted in a change in the residential yield of the units from 340 to 250, and then also converted the project into a mixed use element so that there's some commercial components, including a restaurant, in the project now. And that's ongoing with the planning board. So now that the project looked like it's shoring up to the massing of the project and the substance of the usage of the project, it's been refiled with the commission as a fresh new application, and we have a DEP file number issued for it, which is 158-1668. This is the project team, and all of which are not here on the meeting tonight. You have myself, John Cusich from Bowler Engineering, and then Matt as the developer. So I'm going to just walk through kind of existing and proposed conditions, show work that's in the buffer zone, kind of surmise that work, the stormwater management, and we can discuss at a high level. So here's the site locus. There's existing infrastructure on the property. It's right there on Fountain Street. There's next to Farm Pond, and there's BVW system adjacent to Farm Pond that abuts our site. If you look at the site from an aerial view today, this is what you'll find. So the building to the right, that is, not what we're talking about. We're talking about all these, oh no, sorry, the 59 is the one back here. That's the new one, and then the rest is the two new projects. But it's essentially this entire blob of buildings and pavement. Effectively, the entire site is pavement from virtually end to end. And where you see this row of cars along the back, that edge of pavement of the parking lot is effectively coincident with the rear property line. So we are looking at a site that is fully paved right up to the back lot line. The row of trees that you see that separates us from Farm Pond, that is the natural buffer that exists, and that is off site. Okay, so this is the before, and this is the proposed after. So there's going to be new infrastructure placed by the placement of this nice large building. The building in the center is the one that's going to stay, And that the building off to the side is the project at 59 that was issued the COC earlier tonight. Okay, so I'll show you that comparison one more time. So existing conditions, we're going to discuss the fact that this building here is going to come down. The small building on the other side is coming down. The center building is staying. Parking lot's going to get reconfigured. We're going to add some green spaces to the site, increase the amount of pervious surfaces within buffer zone, but effectively the footprint is going to sit on top of the same footprint there. So existing, proposed, existing, proposed. Okay. If you look at it in plan view, this shows what sits there today. So what's in blue and to the rear is the vegetated wetland, and that was reviewed through Beta's peer review a year ago. So we're adopting the wetland boundary that was considered by the commission post peer review with a few minor modifications. So I don't think there's any need to further review the wetland delineation, as that's already been done and we're using that adopted line. Then we have within the bright green area is 30 feet. The darker green area is 50 feet. This dash line is the property boundary, and you can see we have parking spaces right up to the property boundary. The two yellow buildings are the buildings that are going to be raised as a part of it, and only a portion of this building falls within it. So the proposed layout from a plan view is going to look a lot like this. We have buildings, parking, and some green space with a lot more trees and interesting landscaping infrastructure in and around the buffer areas, more pedestrian walking areas. This plan does show a path that's proposed with the town. There's ongoing trail connections being discussed. That path is in the buffer zone, but is not on this property and is not part of this application. So the application is limited to everything on site, which is the red outline. Okay. So the existing 59 building is not part of this application. The Bancroft building on the other side of the street is not part of this application. It's just everything inside the red, with this center building remaining and everything else being reconfigured. Okay. The work in closest proximity to the buffer zone looks a lot like this. The blue, again, is the wetland edge. It's basically the toe of slope. If you go out there and you see this treed buffer, you see a fairly abrupt slope that's vegetated with trees. Those trees are staying intact. We're not removing trees as a result of this project. We are doing some work within 30 feet because there is existing work within 30 feet. But some of that pavement edge is going to get pulled back. We're going to propose a retaining wall around the building. So there's a perimeter walking area around the building. There'll be several discharges for stormwater release around the retaining walls, and a portion of the stormwater infrastructure is also going to be located within 30 feet. So even though this is work within 30 feet, it is improvements over existing condition in that there's a reduction in asphalt and adding stormwater management, whereby the existing stormwater management just sheet flows off all of that asphalt and into the wetlands. Okay, the purpose of this plan is to show where we're taking existing impervious surfaces within the buffer zone and creating some pervious coverage. A lot of this is part of either stormwater management or landscape mitigation buffer plantings. So we're adding about 12,000 and change square feet of pervious surfaces within 125 feet of the wetlands. Part of that is including mitigation planting plan. So we included a detailed planting plan, which is spec'd out for native species in and around the buffer zone wherever we can fit them. The site is also partially mapped for rare species habitat. A copy of this application was simultaneously filed with the MISA program through Natural Heritage. and that review will be taking place from them simultaneous to this notice of intent process. We're at the very fringe of it. Very little area is within rare species habitat, and so we're not expecting that to be a problem. There's a summary of the amount of square foot, just so for scale purposes of work within the various buffer zones. 5,000 square feet of work within 30 feet, 13,000 within 50 feet, and 64,000 within 125 feet. Again, it's all redevelopment. This is not new construction. John, if you're on the call, I would appreciate it if you could maybe just utilize this slide to discuss how the stormwater management is going to be managed on site. And then we can go to the final slide and talk about any questions.
Yep, I certainly can. So just from a high level, to take a step back from an existing stormwater management, there isn't any. When we have our site walk, we can point that out to the commission. Everything essentially runs off by just free flowing off the side of the parking lot into the wetland area. The majority of it goes to the northwest portion of the site. Which is why you'll see a proposed stormwater system there. We're proposing to actually provide a channel there to capture it, hold it back, a little bit of a scour hole where absolutely none exists. And when we go on site, you'll just see how washed out that is from today. So we're looking to fix that. You'll notice we've also, taken the roof runoff. We have a handful of discharges, so we can minimize the flow coming from the roofed areas, put it where it's going today, but rather than have one large pipe, have multiple small pipes. Really between the two structures, we have another overflow area there to, again, control it, add as a scour hole. And then there's one existing outlet, which really it captures the building that's proposed to remain. I don't know, Scott, if you can see that line right there. That's where that discharge is. That's maintained. We're just connecting into that pipe. That's an existing discharge point that's proposed to remain. So beyond that, it's really what we're looking to do is provide some some mechanisms to slow down the water before it leaves the site, spread it out from when it leaves the site, not all just put it in one area. There's a series of deep sump hooded catch basins, water quality units, and those scour holes to prevent erosion on site where again, none of that exists today.
Okay. So I think we'll leave it there at a high level. So this is an introductory hearing, and we can open up for discussion, schedule a site walk, whatever the commission sees as the next best steps.
Yep, I'll open it up to the commission for questions. So I did have one question, a big picture. So we have Gene and Kevin. Hold on for 1 second. Based on Gene's question, the addresses, Scott, I'm trying to see if would this be like a project segmentation in terms of like, how we're kind of doing the 59 and then this one here.
Well, I think 15, I mean, John, you could probably speak to this better. You were more tightly involved in 59, but I think that's a completely separate parcel, and that had its own ownership at the time.
Okay.
This project was ever contemplated, right?
Okay. No, okay. So it's a different ownership. But okay. All right. Okay, got it. So I didn't know. I mean, because Bowler was involved, I didn't know if it was the same owner or it's different. Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right, let's go to Gene. Gene?
I'm sorry, my apologies.
No problem.
So how many buildings are you proposing? Is the structure to the left all going to be considered one building?
So they're connected. it's kind of hard to tell from this, but there's a connection. The drive-through connects to garages on both sides, and there's a connection up above. So it is one building. It's when you look at the when you look at the picture Scott showed earlier, it kind of shows how it's broken up, but there is interconnection between the two.
All right, so I was, I'm building official by trade, so I'm just curious, if it is one building, that's fine. If it's more than one building, it'd just be curious to have you identify them as such in terms of, height and area and that sort of thing. And then you mentioned parking garage, or where is the parking and which building is the parking located?
It's in both. So when you would drive down that drive aisle right in the middle, yep, right there. You can go underneath that light brown area that's really shown above. You can turn left, or you can go right. There's parking under both of those sections of building.
In multiple stories of parking, or just one story? Or
I think it's multiple. One side has two, the other has one, I believe.
John, it's Matt jumping in. There's two stories of parking under both buildings.
Okay.
Under both, yeah. Yep, nope, just so you know. And part of that parking, just so everybody knows, is partially underground. So one of the stories of parking is effectively underground. The other story is basically at grade. Just for everybody's benefit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
One other thing to note, because just it's hard to read in the plan, on the right side of the building, so the east side of the building, on the top in the center, the board had a step down the building height wise. So those you're reading as green areas. Those are terraces that are kind of green roof terrace areas that step down all the way to the ground level. So it creates a really nice visual. Next time, or when you come to the site visit, we can show you some renderings. But it's created a very nice building there with a lot of green space and outdoor space for the residents that live there.
So those terraces are green spaces, meaning there's actually
well, they have their outdoor spaces, and the idea is they have some areas that are going to have green roofs.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they actually write standards. So you probably know more about it than I do, but there are standards that describe best practices on how to do the rooftop gardens, or whatever nomenclature you might use.
Green roofs, yep.
Yeah, there's a landscape architect involved on the project team. He's not here with us tonight, but worked very, very hard and very closely on that portion of the project.
All right.
Should be really nice up there.
All right, Gene, you're good.
Yes, thank you.
Kevin, Steve, Weisman. I don't know who was first.
Kevin.
Okay.
I just had one question about the Scott. You showed a figure that had an existing outfall from the existing building. I think it was. Is that just rooftop drainage, or is that parking lot also?
No, that's correct. I think that existing outlet is for the roof for that building that's to remain.
Okay, so there's not parking lot going into that.
No, the
Just for roof.
majority, well, not the majority, all of the parking lot is essentially free flowing off the pavement and then rolls off the back.
Oh, I thought the proposal was from the stormwater report.
I
through water quality inlets.
I apologize. I thought you were referring to the existing.
Oh,
existing
okay, yeah.
is how that works. Proposed, it's all captured before rolling, before going to the ultimate discharge point. So
But that existing outfall is going to remain. What's going into the existing outfall? Just
It's
rooftop?
essentially the same. That building is the building remains. So that pipe remains.
Okay. Yep.
And this,
this
map,
picture, you can see that step down.
Yeah, exactly, John. I put this back up because it showed the step down that Matt was talking about, and shows the connection between the buildings, just with a different style of rendering.
Yep.
Sounds good. Kevin, you're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, Steve Weisman.
Yeah, I think Sam and I were the only members of the commission who were on when this came before us the last time. I seem to remember there was a lot of discussion the first time around about shadow effect with this project, and this design seems somewhat different. Could you talk a little bit about how it's different from what was proposed the first time around?
Yeah, just high level, and Matt, chime in if I misspeak, but high level, it's smaller. The building that was stepped down previously was extended all the way, all the way out to the right as you're looking at it. So it was much more building. Part of what the planning board was interested in was really twofold. They wanted the density reduced a little bit, so the density got smaller. They also wanted to really secure some of the existing views from that existing building that would remain. So by doing that step down and pulling that back, it really promoted, frankly, more views from more residents in the area.
And have you done any shadow analysis?
We did on the old plan. We have not run, to my knowledge. I can check with the architects on this plan, but that is something we can certainly provide to the commission.
Okay, that was all I had.
Yeah, I think we did do it for the John, for the 59 fountain.
Oh yes, we did for 59, but we even did
Yeah.
for this before we withdrew it.
So I think it's kind of like I would say if you may want to get jump start on it, because I think we may eventually need it for this.
We will do that.
Yeah.
And just to add to what John said, he hit the nail on the head. But for Steve, your question, it's a really significant reduction in density and size of the building. So we had 340 units in the first design, and now we're down to 250 units. And as John said, that building went all the way across on the top and sort of blocked the existing building in the middle, which is the 63 Fountain existing historic building in the middle, which we're planning to restore. So the idea with the step backs was to open up some more view corridors, as John said, open up some more green space. So we sort of have this really nice, I don't know who's controlling the presentation, but maybe Steve, you can go to the plan view. We sort of have this really nice green space in the center of the site now. That's kind of like an open park area type space So this whole area, the turnaround was all added by the board. So there's a better flow of traffic. There's children's play space. There's a daycare in the building. That was part of the reason we're going mixed use. So we're keeping the daycare in the building because the city of Framingham desperately needs daycare. So we're incorporating and keeping the daycare as a mixed use project. We've got this nice green space. And ultimately, the idea is to connect that green space to the trail once the trail back there is eventually capitalized and built. So just to give you guys a little more color.
Yeah, it's definitely much more interesting than the original design.
I would agree. I mean, we hate to lose the units. It hurts the viability of the project. But I think together with the board, we've arrived at a really nice design.
And where is the restaurant going?
We are working with the board on that now. We've got a meeting with them on the 22nd, but we're looking for locations. It looks like we're going to try to put it in the existing 63 Fountain building in kind of that upper right-hand corner, which is the northeast corner that would have some views of the pond and the green space out the back windows.
Got it.
And the idea is it's a cafe, coffee shop. So during the day, parents can drop their kids off. Residents that live there can grab a cup of coffee, and then at night, it potentially could be a nice restaurant.
Okay. All right, Kevin. Oh, you have your hand up, so that's why I called on you. All right. The other question is, what do you know the timeline of when the planning board review process?
They've been going on for a long time. We started over a year ago. We got the next meeting with them, public hearing on the 22nd of August. And we're hoping we get to a vote sometime soon.
Okay. The reason I'm getting at is, are they doing any peer review for stormwater on this project? Is the planning board do they have?
John, I'll defer to you if there's anyone on the planning board side.
Yeah, I think they had the engineering take a look at it, and we got some comments from engineering on it. And then I don't recall if any additional comments came in, but Caroline,
we definitely got DPW comments.
Yep.
Sam, I don't know if there's anything else. Carolyn, feel free to add.
Yeah, no, that's correct. We got DPW comments and
Okay.
we responded to those comments as well, but we didn't receive others.
All right, Becca, do we have those, or I think we should get those.
I don't think those were sent to us, but we can definitely get them.
Yeah, we do. So, okay. All right. Okay. Anything else from the commission? If not, Wendy, you want
Kevin,
Oh.
Kevin had his hand up, but maybe not.
No, it's this new computer. It's doing tricks. But in any case, I'll go back to the team and when do you want this to be continued to?
Well, I mean, we can put it out to the next meeting, I guess, for now. And we
Okay.
can always request a continuation if it doesn't seem productive. Would the commission like to do a site walk and get that scheduled?
Yes. So I was getting to that. So, do we want to, Becca, and the commissioners, do we want to do it offline, or do you want to throw some dates now?
I think it's worked well just doing it in the moment while everyone's here.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's go to the team and see what their availability is, and then we'll try to fit in the commissioners, or vice versa. So whoever wants to.
Well, I'll just tell you, same thing as before. I work, so after 4 o'clock works for me, preferably on Wednesday.
All right.
Yeah, Wednesday after 4 would work for me for the 14th. So
Monday and Tuesday would work for me.
Anytime, David?
Pretty much so.
Okay.
I'm pretty good that entire week, so I can be flexible.
So next week is what we're talking about.
The week of the 12th.
Okay.
Actually, Monday and Tuesday are no good next week, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are better for me. Could you do 2 different visits?
We did that last time. That worked pretty well.
So
Because
maybe
of the
one after 4 o'clock, and then the other probably in the morning, like we did with the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So how does Wednesday 9 or 10 o'clock?
That's good for me.
Okay. I can do that too. So
Steve? Nicola?
Monday's I can't do Monday and I'm good the rest of the week.
so
Wednesday's great,
Okay.
morning or afternoon.
All right. Wednesday morning at 10. Did we do 10 or 9 o'clock?
I'd be happy to do 9 if you can do it, Sam.
I can, yeah.
This
Stephen,
is
did you
this
call?
this is quite a drive for you, huh, Sam?
Oh, I yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, both of us. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's too much driving. Yep. I know.
sure.
Yeah.
No,
Do you
I'm
want-
good. That's fine.
Okay.
I could do 9 that morning if we wrap up by 9:30 or something. I have a meeting at 10.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, you can jet out at 9:30.
I'm a minute from the site, so
Okay. Yeah. Let's
And
do it.
probably
it's
a mile.
easily visible to see everything because we can drive right to the edge of the parking lot
a
and
parking
walk
lot.
it. It's wide open, so the
Yeah.
visibility is quite good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So one site visit is going to be Wednesday at 9 a.m. and then we got to schedule one for Gene and whoever can make it after 4, some other day. So, Gene, what do you prefer?
I thought you said the 14th. After
So-
4 o'clock.
Okay. Anybody
That
else?
won't be me. I'll be out of the country on the 14th.
No, you're doing Wednesday, right?
No.
It is the 14th.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
David S.
we can do them two in one day if that's what you guys are requesting. We'll do an early one and a late one.
Sam, I can always visit it as, another time.
okay. All right. Okay, we can plan on Wednesday, one at 9 and then one at 4. I don't know David S. or anyone else can join him.
Yeah, I'll try to join Wednesday. I'll see if I can clear my calendar.
keep the times that you're planning.
Gene, okay.
And I'll suggest for a meeting place, just kind of toward the back tree line right around here. So when you pull into the site, find a place to park here and we'll just meet right center in the tree line. So we're not all looking for each other.
All right, okay, sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right, if we're good with those dates, then let's I'll entertain a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue the, I don't have the agenda in front of me.
DEP number 158-1668, 63 and 75 Fountain Street.
Yep.
To our next meeting on August 17th, August 21st at 7 o'clock.
7 p.m. Yep, okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Stephen D. Nicola,
Yes.
Steve Weisman,
Yes.
David A.
Yes.
Gene,
Yes.
David S. Yes.
You're muted, David.
Yep, that's okay. I read his lips. Kevin?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Sam, yes. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Good night.
All right, so that
Good night.
was-
Thanks.
that was the last item on the agenda. I think we went through a bunch of stuff, member prerogatives, admin matters, anything else that anybody wants to bring up?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all right, understood. All right, well, motion.
I thought we'd talk about football for a while.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? None. I'll take a roll call vote. Stephen D. Nicola,
Yes.
Steve Weisman,
Yes.
David A.
Yes.
Gene,
Yes.
David S.
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Sam, yes. Okay. Kevin, I'm glad that you're 95% better from COVID. To be honest, I didn't know that COVID, there was a spike in COVID now.
Yeah, mask up. Mask up.
Yeah, it's back. It's back.
Okay.
Have a good night, everybody. I gotta run.
Yeah.
All right,
Good
okay.
night.
Sam,
Yep.
I will be trying to connect from overseas on the 21st.
Okay, we'll do. We'll the good thing is we have a full commission now, so it's good. All right, try to join in. If not, that's not a big deal. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right.
Good night.
See you guys. Becca, thank you so much.
Yeah, see you guys.
All right. Have a good night.